All right, let's bring together the March 12th, 2026 meeting of the Fairfax County Architectural Review Board. We have some procedural items we have to go through before we can get into our full agenda. At this current moment, we don't have any members participating remotely, correct, Mary Catherine? So we don't need to vote for audibility. We do need to set public comment and time limitations. So the ARB has to determine how long each member of the public will be able to speak during public comment periods. Traditionally, the public is allowed to comment after consent agenda items and after action items is their standard practice. The staff and I want to propose that we also consider setting a time that would allow members of the public to speak during workshop items for this session, given the item in question has drawn a lot of public interest. So if that is acceptable, I would ask that someone make a motion that would allow the public to speak for action items and following workshop items. It's Mr. Thurcher.
I move that each member of the public have 3 minutes to speak for both action items and workshop items.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Kalinsky. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right. Another notification. This meeting is being recorded. The recording is posted within 10 days. So give yourself a little patience on that end, but once it's on there, you can find it on YouTube. It's always a riveting watch. Last, before we start any of our meetings of the ARB, we always begin with reading a statement of purpose and intent for historic overlay districts, and Ms. Hammock has graciously offered to do that for us.
Sure. Historic overlay districts are created for the purpose of promoting the general welfare, education, economic prosperity, and recreational pleasure of the public through the perpetuation of those general areas or individual structures and premises that have been officially designated by the Board of Supervisors as having historical, cultural, architectural, or archaeological significance. Regulations within such districts are intended to protect against the destruction of or encroachment upon such areas, structures, and premises, to encourage uses which will lead to their continuance, conservation, and improvement in a manner appropriate to the preservation of the cultural, social, economic, political, architectural, or archaeological heritage of the county, to prevent creation of environmental influences adverse to such purposes, and to ensure that new structures and uses within such districts will be in keeping with the character to be preserved and enhanced.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hammock. All right, just a reminder that the order in which items are heard will be set when we establish the agenda. Items may be added at the discretion of the chair. Applicants here for initial or follow-up presentations should have provided their information to the ARB prior to the meeting. If we do not have adequate information, it could result in applications being postponed. With that being said, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda either as provided by staff or provisions. Burns.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve the agenda for the March 12th, 2026 ARB meeting.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Okay.
Seconded by Ms. Mangum. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The abstentions? Motion carries. All right, a reminder for our applicants tonight, please limit your presentation to 8 minutes if this is your first time coming before the board. If this is a resubmission, please focus it to 3 minutes, focusing on the changes that have happened. I will also remind any members of the public that wish to speak. We call for members of the public following the presentation by the applicant. Ms. Mary Catherine, who is our staff, will be keeping track of the 3-minute time limit. So I will try to politely let you know when you're getting close to that so that we can finish your statement at that point. Other than that, Mary Catherine, do we have any guests or staff that we need to recognize? All right, everyone's here for a reason. There are no consent calendar action items, so this brings us right on to our first item for action, ARB 2026 HM00008, HVAC install located at 1623 Washington Plaza, suite 1623, Ruston tax map 0172311623. The applicant is proposing to install a commercial unit HVAC system with associated rooftop equipment. Ms. Lazo, the community manager for Lake Anne of Reston, represents the application. Lazo? Oh. Or is yours?
We are here to apply for an HVAC unit. As you know, RELAC is no longer available for the community. And our commercial unit owners need air conditioning this summer. And this application is the first application that we got from 1623 Washington Plaza. And it would be a commercial unit, and we're proposing to install it in the roof, which we've done in prior years. I think last year and 2 years ago with another one. This is a picture of the location. The red dot is where the unit is, and it would be right on the roof there.
Yeah. My name is Brady. I'm an HVAC contractor for this job. This is the second job we're doing in here. This is for a restaurant. We installed 3 units on that restaurant, but we're gonna use the same beams to put the unit on top. This is my unit. It's like a 36 high. The existing unit sitting there is like a 5 foot long, but this is 2 feet shorter. No one can see it from behind or in lake end. So the unit sitting on top of that beam, this is the outside, and we have 2 heads sitting on the stove. And for refrigeration line, we're gonna use the same shaft. There is nothing exposed. There is a shaft to start, and we're gonna use the same shaft. There you go. That's the existing 3 unit for coffee shop we did over there, and that unit is in between that 2. Yeah, that's the shaft I'm talking about. This shaft goes up all the way to the roof, and the lines that comes connected that in. That's the condenser outside sitting in the room. 36 high, 48. That's the size of the unit, and this is the. We passed it. That was this unit sitting inside the store. It should be on that corner.
One of the things that you guys had mentioned to us in the past was, which you'll see in our presentation, is maybe covering the units, because there's going to be so many and residents are going to have them on top. So we're proposing a cover if needed. It's just an option for you guys to take a look at. A guide.
We don't have any exposed line to be covered.
Right, yes. That's it then.
I just said there is no exposed line set or drain line. Nothing is going to be shown outside of the building. It goes through the shaft to the hallway and then comes to the stove.
Any other, is that the full presentation? Okay. All right. Before I get to members of the board, is there any member of the public which wishes to speak to this item? So I guess since we got a lot of folks here, if you did, raise your hand. All right. Seeing none, I would turn to the board members for any comments or questions on this one. This one.
Yes. So look like your unit is the one on the other side of that shared corridor, right?
Right,
Okay.
right.
How many pipe goes through the roof?
For this unit, we have 2 heads, which is 4 line. Suction line and liquid line for 2 heads. So in total, 4 lines.
4 lines.
Right.
Okay,
And also electric line.
I see. Okay. And there is There is a page of the photo you draw up your unit next to a unit already installed there. And you have a dimension there called out as 5 feet wide and 3 feet tall.
Right.
Do you happen to know the unit already installed? How big are they?
We have 3 units sitting on that beam,
Right.
between the first and second one, like a 90 inches space, 90 inches. We're gonna sit the unit this side, not to 5 feet between two. So between the two big units, existing unit for the coffee, my unit is like not more than 20 inches.
No, I think her question was, do you know how tall the existing units are?
5 feet,
I think.
yeah. This one is way shorter than the existing.
Was that what you were looking for, Samantha?
Yes, I was looking, I try to understand if the drawing is kind of sort of close to the proportion. And which side is the plaza side? This photo.
Plaza side.
We're looking at, like the plazas on the other side.
This side.
This is the, if you stay this side, this is the parking side. Plaza is other.
Okay, okay. You see. And I know this is kind of weird because we are this case coming as application, individual, but later on, we're gonna have a workshop talking about the kind of sort of design guideline for the entire condominium. So, which will, it's weird because we kind of work backwards. That's what I'm trying to say. So it just feel we needed to be caution because we not just look at individual case, we are also look at all other case likelihood. Take this case going a little bit further. So where the screen is likely to be proposed on the workshop item, I mean,
Well, these aren't visible from any street, so I was confused why you're proposing the screen. We're not gonna see the unit from anywhere.
That was what you guys had proposed a long time ago, if we were gonna do a lot of units. So I'm just but that'll be in our workshop presentation, so it depends on the guidelines that you give us. Maybe you'd want them, or maybe you don't.
I think it's tricky because we don't want to penalize a tenant or property owner for the fact that we don't have a master plan in place. Right? And they should, you know, if they have their application and they have information, like, I think they should get vote. And the dunnage exists, but, right, and it's reversible, and it's not visible from any public right of way. So, am I right?
Well, my understanding is those two units are the ones where the prior applicant assembled boxes on the roof to show us.
Actually, the 3 existing is two.
Did we approve these two?
Those two units are previously approved by the ARB, is my
Yeah.
understanding,
Oh, well then,
Without a screen.
without a screen.
Right.
okay, well,
Existing is 5 feet. The one we're going to install is 36.
I cannot remember the actual business, but if I remember correctly, the applicant actually. It's not a restaurant.
Yeah.
They constructed cardboard boxes to show the visibility, and you could not see those. I think my question is more of, you showed a screening in this presentation. It's not in the package you provided. There's nothing to help me understand what that would be. And so I personally would not want that to be part of this application because there's no context on what that's made of, where it's going to be installed, what color it's going to be, a lot of factors that, because they're not here in, you know, I've only have an image to go off of. To me, that's another additional factor that has to be considered with Lake Ann, because then that's something that is definitely going to be visible. If you start to construct
Yeah.
screens, they're going to be something you're going to see from different angles. So
I agree.
personally, because of the proposed height and location, and we've already reviewed this, I don't have me personally significant concerns with this individual location. I do think we're starting to push the capacity of that chase up to the roof, and we're going to start running out of the ability to run more things through it. I think that Samantha brought a really good question about that, because eventually there's not going to be any more room in there to run any more conduit to do that. So I personally would not want to be considering something that I don't think is fleshed out well enough with the screening in here. So that's just my reflection, just since we were talking about there. But are there any other board members that have questions on this side?
Sorry, I
Yes,
just want
Samantha, go right ahead.
to aid on that screening. Yes, it's right. At the most part of the plaza, looking at the roof, the J house roof, I think it's really to see those units that already installed. But if you back out further at a little bit distance, it does start to see a couple of them pop up on the roof. I think in the workshop, we probably will get a better idea of how that going to look. What is it looking right now?
When you step back and you think it might become visible, are you on you're not in anyone's yard, like you're in the public right of way?
Public right away, because
Okay.
it's actually a pretty deep plaza if you're standing
No, it
in
is,
front
yeah.
of the church, right?
But that's really important. I think that that's something the board should consider, not just standing right at looking at the building and looking up, but especially in this district, the view sheds are important because it's a composition. It's a visual composition, the plaza and the church and the lake and everything. And so seeing it from a distance could still arguably have a detrimental effect.
Let me let Mr. Burns also had a question. I'll give him his chance.
Yeah, I echo your concerns about this kind of cart before the horse presentation. One of the things that worries me is I don't think your photographs adequately convey to us what this will look like. You have a box that you drew on one of your drawings, but how do we see that box from the plaza?
Actually, it's not visible. You cannot see it because
All right, but you showed a picture of the plaza, which appeared to be at least one of those units is visible. Is that not your unit there?
yeah, this is that exhaust, that exhaust is for restaurant, and the unit sitting there. If you stay in this.
Can you
cannot
point?
see anything.
You're gesturing from too far away. I can't tell what you're pointing at.
Yeah, you see that mushroom exhaust fan?
That is not your unit.
Right. This is but for.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
For the restaurant, we already installed 3 units.
So if we're talking about that exhaust fan, I think this would help. Where are the 2 current units in relation to that fan that we know we
The
can?
left side.
Okay, so they're over there. We just cannot see
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
Okay, all right. Now, from the plaza side,
You can sort of see it on, I think you
can you go to the plaza side picture?
That's also the parking lot.
That's also the part.
That's a different
I
angle.
think. you're
Right, so we have
seeing
no picture of this site taken from the plaza, like say over by the brew pub or something like that, looking back at this site.
There's,
We
at
have-
the first picture, I think it was front. We took,
Well, it's really close up.
yeah,
All right, so you're showing my point that we don't have an adequate amount of information to show how this is going to be impacting the view shed from the plaza. Now, there are the 2 existing units. I acknowledge that.
3.
3 or whatever it is, they're already up there. We know that. But I don't want to use them as an excuse for saying this one is only 3 feet high because we have 2 others that I think are intrusions. Because if we say, does then a 3-foot high unit become the default for everybody else? Are there smaller units? Did you look at shorter units than 3 feet?
Yeah, the one we're going to install is 3 feet high.
I know. Did you look at units that are shorter than 3 feet high? Because we've got 33 potential rooftop units that are gonna come into this
Right.
rooftop area.
We're working with the manager over there to put up for the residential side. The residential is not more than 30-inch high. And they're sitting on the roof is not, there's no beam to sit on top. This thing is saying how, because we have to, this is the commercial system, is heavy. We cannot use the just only joist for the roof.
Yes.
We have to use the beam to
Okay.
hold the weight.
Okay,
This unit sitting on top of the unit, the beams, and the beams almost like 30-inch high from the flat roof. But for the residential sitting on the roof and 30-inch high, it's almost on the sitting on top of the unit. Residential comes flat with the beam. Unit sitting on top of it.
okay, but we don't have any drawings that show us those relationships. We only have what you have verbally described. So I don't think I would be comfortable voting for this because I don't think I have an adequate amount of information to assess its significance and its impact visually on the view from the plaza side in particular.
Any other members of the, Mr. Malinsky?
Well, with respect to the submission of this and any of the others, I mean, we think we need to, and maybe we can do this as we get into the workshop item. We need to be able to see where exactly on the roof this is placed. There's no roof plan, there's no measurements, there's nothing to tell me exactly where it is, other than I can look at a Google Earth view of the roof and see where the dunnage is currently located for this to sit on. So, you know, assuming it's going in that place, but it's not indicated in any way in our presentation. I just think and this goes back to how do we communicate to the applicants that we need drawings that have this sort of information on it, locations, heights, sections, all those sort of things.
Not needed for the permit?
Because this is mostly a mechanical permit, no.
Really?
So I guess a few comments I would make is, one, I recall the other two units and the extensive efforts we made to visually sightline those. We did get photographs of those from inside the J. So I respect Mr. Burns's hesitancy. I feel comfortable knowing this won't be seen because of the analysis that was done on those last two, thanks to the effort of that prior applicant. But I also agree with my board members that that's not a good precedent to stand on. Knowing that I know where two of these are, and I know something going between them that's shorter will be not seen is, I think, for me, a level of comfort I have in this instance. But then I agree with the problem of it's hard to know where everything is on the roof of the J. The plans for Lake Ann do exist. This is probably one of the few places in Reston where the plans are extensively documented because it literally even has a museum located in the J that has many of those things kept for posterity's sake. I think from a larger perspective for all of these, a actual roof plan showing existing mechanical placements would be something that should probably go with every submission package in the future, because then it would help everyone understand, well, here are the ones that are there. Here's where this one's being located. And it would give members of this board context. I also looked out at this when my ears got lowered. Hence, you know, that little hair I have. I went to Barberland over there where I get my hair cut. Depending on your sightline, it is very difficult to make out any of those units on there for where they're located on the street, from my personal perception. I did ask that we get a photo inside the J because this picture of the front facade doesn't do anything for this application. It's great for me to know the bookshelf is still thriving, but we're all focused up there. So that's another key thing that I think is going to be a priority focus for applications is context for the actual work being done. As it's been pointed out, we're a board of many. We have to vote on that. I have a level of comfort with it because of the prior situation, but I want to just be on record of saying that it isn't a precedent-setting vote if I'm comfortable with it just because of prior experience.
The applicant may make a comment.
And if you're the applicant, you definitely come up to the table and,
It provides pictures that we've not included in the package of the plaza from the J.
okay.
I'm not sure why it was not in the package that Vanessa's presented.
Thank you. Right. Yes.
We had the same issue when we tried to get the permission for that restaurant, for that 3 units. The only thing we could do is we just get the boxes, because we cannot put the unit up there and then get the permission.
No, I told,
We believe that we just get the boxes and hold it, take a picture and send it before you guys can see it. I can do the same thing. I can get the empty box, take it to the roof, put it in place.
if you're willing to do that, and I think I would
it's-
suggest do that, and I would take where this picture is taken from here, I would then move back across the J towards the church or even closer to another portion of the quay to show this is what it would look like, because that is one of the primary views that someone at Lake Ann is experiencing that space. And that's, every one of these board members is asking kind of that kind of question. You provided the other sides, and I think that's very helpful, but I think particularly Ms. Hammock was getting at, like, knowing what that's going to do, the topography of the roof would be very helpful. So if you're willing to do that, we can defer this application.
We can do that.
Don't have that picture of the plaza.
Uh,
Okay.
No,
Oh, well, I don't get to make the motion, so.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I would,
Okay, I'll make.
I would leave it to the applicant one way or another. If you want us to take a vote on it, we definitely can. And see where it goes. It's,
Okay, if you would like us to take a vote, I'm comfortable making a motion. Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB-2026-HM-00008 located at 1623 Washington Plaza, Suites, 1623, Preston, tax map 0172 311623 in the Lake Ann HOD for the installation of a commercial HVAC system with associated rooftop equipment as submitted and presented at the March 12, 2026 ARB meeting. The applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed changes to ARB-2026-HM-00008 as approved by the ARB on March 12, 2026. Upon review of the material, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 Historic Overlays District.
all right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Kalinsky. I'm going to do a roll call vote on this one. This makes it easier. Ms. Mangum,
Yes.
Hammock,
Yes.
Burns. Nay. Ms. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Kalinsky,
Yes.
Ms. Repetti.
Nothing about HVACs. So
Recuse yourself.
You may abstain. You don't have to vote yes. You don't
saying,
abstain. I vote yes. So the motion passes. 6 yeses, 1 nay. No, 5 yeses, 1 nay, and 1 abstention. In the future, Mary Catherine, I'm going to ask you to do that count if we have to do it again, because I'm not that good at it. All right. Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right. Yeah.
And the lack of documentation.
All right, our next item is, we can ask Mary. Absolutely.
Necessarily, okay, saying.
ARB 2026 HM 00009 HVAC installation located
That was
at 11400 Washington Plaza.
for the technical, I would feel more.
Or is it?
comfortable where the other ones.
Right?
We could see.
Just sorry.
Oh, he's not here. Oh, okay.
Right, exactly, yeah.
All right, not going to be present at all? You're not going to be here tonight?
so I am, but there's items missing, so let's table it. I don't know.
Okay, so the representative of the application has asked that we defer this item because the owner is not present. So I would take a motion to defer this application by one of the members here. Ms. Mangum.
Sure. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB defer action item ARB 2026 HM 0009 located at 11400 Washington Plaza, Suite 1102, Reston, tax map 01723111102 in the Lake Ann Historic Overlay District for the installation of a split air conditioning unit for one residential unit at Heron House High Rise as submitted and presented at the ARB at the March 12th meeting. The motion is deferred due to the fact that the applicant requested deferral until a future date when the owner is present and additional information is available.
Thank you, Ms. Mangum. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Burns. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? All right. That move brought us suddenly to workshop. It doesn't usually happen for us, so congratulations. So we're gonna go into workshop. I just want to, since we have a lot of members of the public here that may or may not want to comment on the workshop session. When the ARB conducts a workshop, it is not an item for action. We are not voting on this. It is meant to be a dialogue where we engage an applicant to help them prepare for a future application. Normally, we don't take comments, but given the fact that there was a large amount of public interest in this, what I elected to do after talking with staff was allow that members of the public, if they had a statement they wanted to provide after the applicant has presented to us, I'll give that chance. Again, Ms. Mary Catherine will run her timer. We'll take that statement down when we put into the record, and then we will discuss with the applicant the proposal they provided. Just to kind of make that clear for everyone here. So our next workshop session is ARB WK 2026 HM 00003 HVAC installation presentation located at 1625 Washington Plaza, Suite 1625. The applicant is proposing replacement of the existing relax system with alternatives for Chimney House, Henry House, and Wayside buildings. Ms. Vanessa Lazo, Community Manager for Lake Ann of Reston, represents the application. Okay. Oh, well, if you'll just introduce yourself on the record too, of course. Is that back now? No, it's okay.
Good evening. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. I'm Ken Costiva with Wishton Elsner Associates. We're an architectural engineering firm representing Lake Ann of Reston Community Association. Appreciate it. This is the Lake Ann of Reston Community Association site. Obviously, Lake Ann at the center, Heron House, Quayside, and Chimney House. So all of you are probably aware of the condition with Reston Relac. In October of 2025, Relac ceased operations. LARCA subsequently engaged a number of consultants to evaluate potential solutions. And obviously, as part of this working session, right, LARCA is seeking design guidance from the ARB. Some background on this, and I know we're limited to 8 minutes, so I'll try to be as brief and concise as I can. In 2024, based on information that it was likely that RELAC would not continue operations, LARCA hired the Potomac Energy Group, an MEP consulting firm, to evaluate options. Ultimately, RELAC did decide that they would operate 2024-2025 season. But subsequently, as we know, in October of last year, RELAC ceased operations. LARCA engaged WJE, my firm, to do structural and historic analyses, feasibility studies related to capacity of the existing structures to be able to support loads associated with proposed mechanical systems. And subsequently, I'm sorry, if you go to the next one, please. Subsequently, in November, LARCA held their annual meeting, and in December of last year started feasibility evaluations for multiple different solutions at each of the 3 buildings. Just some quick background from January through March of this year, LARCA has been incredibly busy completing feasibility studies, sending out notifications and announcements to the community. They held a town hall in February and have engaged again multiple MEP, structural, and historic consultants in an effort to try to get to an equitable and reasonable, respectful solution. Recently, LARCA re-engaged PEG, the MEP consulting firm, to complete more comprehensive and in-depth feasibility studies related to proposed HVAC solutions. So again, multiple solutions were considered as part of the evaluation process. LARCA is unfortunately precluded from operating a utility. So utilizing the existing RELAC infrastructure system is not feasible for them. In addition to that, There are cost, regulatory, and infrastructure concerns associated with that. Air or water cooled chiller systems were evaluated and ruled out for Quayside and Heron House. I'm sorry, that should be Quayside and Chimney House due to visibility from the plaza. Obviously, those systems would be very significant in size and would quite obviously be visible from the plaza. It is something that was evaluated for Heron House, but because of associated or issues with the mechanical systems and the need for extensive steel dunnage, right? That would be wide flange beams, concrete columns, or steel columns to dump the loads of the cooling tower into the existing columns. It would definitely be visible from the plaza, from the roof. So not desirable from that standpoint. Could the next one, please? Thank you. LARCA also evaluated opportunity to install an exterior chiller plant. There are easement and other issues associated with that. That would be on the slope that's kind of to the north and west of the building in the parking space. Variable refrigerant systems are being considered for Heron House. These would still require some type of steel dunnage on the roof, but because they are lower profile than traditional cooling towers at the roof, they may be something that is feasible. For Heron House specifically, likely not feasible or essential for Quayside and Chimney House. But again, evaluation needs to be done on the height of those systems relative to the vantage points from the plaza space. The most promising solution that's been identified to date for Heron House, Chimney House, and Quayside is individual independent units for those systems. That's what we'll present tonight for commentaries. The next one, please. So this would be some type of individual heat pump system installed, again, associated with each unit. For Heron House, while they could install 65 heat pumps on light steel dunnage at the roof, there is sufficient space based on our analysis. It's not been something that's supportable by any of the MEP consultants because of the length of the runs for the associated lines. So really not feasible to go in that direction for a high rise. For Chimney House and for Quayside, it is feasible to install heat pumps at the roof. Obviously similar to the previous item that was discussed, they would be low profile heat pumps that would be installed in locations where they wouldn't be visible from the plaza. Go to the next slide, please. I'll talk a little bit more about the solution that's being proposed for Heron House. It would again be individual units. They would be small split system units that would be concealed on balconies. We have photos to depict exactly what that would look like. Before I jump into kind of the next section of the proposal, obviously this is a working session, right? So we don't have dimension drawings. Obviously that's something that we would plan to present at a future presentation. It just doesn't make sense to go to that level of design, right, without approval. If we went down that path and you guys said no, I think people would be upset about my fee, right? So again, buildings at Lake Anne. Next slide, please. So this is existing plan for Quayside. These are proposed general locations where the heat pumps would be installed. So in this orientation, the plaza would be south or below where the buildings are. So the endeavor would be to place optimally to limit view from the plaza, right? So there would be no visible HVAC from the plaza, but also locate them such that they would be minimally or not visible from the parking lot. We considered that a secondary vantage point. Obviously, view from the plaza is the most significant historical sightline. Could the next slide, please. So some views from the plaza at present, just to illustrate kind of the nature of the architecture and the vantage points with respect to the roof. So obviously you can see from the photos, right, because of the height of the buildings, the nature of the architecture, setback from the leading edge of the roof, it would not be visible if we're talking about a unit that's 30 inches. Certainly we could go down the road that you discussed with the previous applicant of constructing some type of mock-up on the roof. I see no issue in doing that, and I know that's something that has been discussed with LARCA as well. If we could, the next photo. So these highlight a couple of locations where there are existing HVAC systems that are installed at the roof. At Quayside, These units are visible only from the back side of the building. So from the west of the building, the parking lot is higher than it is the plaza on the east side of the building. So the proposed units would be, sorry, my computer screen in my office is about this big. So if I put those up there, they look really good. I appreciate you zooming in. So the units that would be proposed would be lower profile from these, so they would be less obtrusive than this. Again, just an illustration, not intended to illustrate exactly what will be installed, but just to give you a sense of the visibility from, again, secondary vantage point. This is from the parking lot area. We could for the next slide, please. Thank you. So similar presentation for chimney house, general locations, again, near the midpoint of the roof to, again, optimize vantages with a focus on the plaza. Excellent. Thank you. So again, the same type of illustration. These are vantages from the plaza. Again, looking up to the roof, you can see because of the overhang and the brick extensions above the roof line, there's considerable amount of setback that's offered there. If we go to the next photo, these will be highlighted a little bit better. More, please. So that maybe was the photo that you guys needed in the previous presentation. So again, same thing we're highlighting here. The proposed units would be lower profile than these existing units that are already on the roof. And again, similar to Quayside, we would likely go through a process where we create some type of a mock-up to illustrate that they're not visible from the primary plaza spaces, though I think everybody who's here recognizes that because you have the opportunity to move toward Lookout Tower and Sunboat sculptures at the Heron House end of the plaza, you do create completely different views than if you're within kind of the center portion of the plaza. We could, the next slide, please. So Heron House is a little bit different than Quayside and Chimney House, obviously with respect to construction limitations that places on specifically the mechanical systems. As I mentioned, we did run several feasibility studies and identified a solution that we think is reasonable and equitable and does minimize the visual impact on the building. We could, the next slide, please. Sir, so I'll show you this photo and then really show you the ones that are meaningful, which is the mock-up that's already been created at the building. So these would be small split system units that would be located on the balconies enclosed within this type of louvered, right, planter or similar box that would go around them. We could to the next slide, please. This is an actual unit that's installed. So this is a mock-up unit that's installed. You can see the size of the unit relative to the balcony space. It's installed kind of at the inside corner of the balcony. These lines do have to penetrate the building, right? They run through, in this case, they're going through the brick facade in order to get to the interior of the unit. If we could, the next photo, those lines run to new air handlers on the inside of the unit that would be recessed within the existing drop ceiling. They're at the same location that the existing units would be at the interior. And then bottom right, it might be worthwhile to zoom in on that one. So this is the unit installed with an enclosure around it to minimize visual impact. So this was evaluated from a feasibility standpoint, from a historic preservation standpoint, really against solutions that would be much more visible, right? Cooling towers that would be installed at the roof would be, again, on significant structural steel dunnage. They would be elevated, definitely visible from the plaza when you move back toward the area where the Robert Simon statue is, back toward Plaza Fountain in those spaces. The same would likely be true of solutions that would be outside the building. And then, like I said, the variable refrigerant solution is still being considered. And we're not at this point completely positive whether that would be visible from the plaza space or not. So if we could, the next slide, I think that's the last one, last couple. So solutions that are under consideration, right, would likely be primarily for Heron House on the right. Quayside and Chimney House would be lower profile units, but some type of heat pump system. Obviously, we provide product data with dimensions on the system, as part of a future submission, but for working purposes. Today, we're just representing kind of the style that it would be. Next slide, if we could, please. These would be supported at Chimney House and Quayside on probably the low profile pad versus the more modern 8-inch pad that has the integrated risers in it. And again, the aim would be to create as low a profile as is feasible to limit visibility. So I think I'm well over the 8 minutes.
You were okay. You're fine.
Okay, good. Appreciate it. So again, appreciate it. Appreciate the back and forth, the collaboration. So questions certainly happy to answer. But
Well, first I'll let you take a seat.
Sure.
Because we're allowing for public comment on this one. So if there is any member of the public that's in attendance that would like to provide a comment or public statement about this presentation, I'd ask that you raise your hand and then you could come up to the front, state your name. And we'll have it for the record. And Miss Mary Catherine will let you know when you get to your
Sign-in sheet?
3-minute time limit. So if you're willing to acquiesce to him, absolutely, sir, just step up to the front and state your name. So we have it for the record and the floor is yours for the next 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Schipplbein. I'm an architect, more than 50 years of experience. And I've done most building types, including residential, which is what Heron House is. And I'm really speaking tonight specifically to Heron House, because there is an aspect of Heron House that nobody is addressing. All the bathrooms are ventilated up through the roof. If you're going to ventilate something, you've got to have intake. There is a air handler in the basement, fresh air intake on the south face of the building. That air is tempered, either heated or cooled, depending on the season. It's filtered, tempered, and pumped up the 16 stories. Some of it goes to each sub lobby, where it goes sideways into each unit. Again, you can't exhaust a bathroom if you don't have intake air. Nobody's talking about that. Split systems. Your house is going to have a central system because the only way you can do that 15 tons downstairs is a central system. If you don't have that central system, the building doesn't meet the code. It's that simple. Code hasn't changed in 50 years. And nobody's talking, this is the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. I feel very strongly about it because I don't want my bathroom to smell. I happen to have a window in my kitchen that met the code. But 2/3 of the units, the kitchens are inside and don't have a window. So they have a vent. Like I say, nobody's talking about that. I have a prepared piece that I'll pass to the secretary. But that's something that I think is so important. Because if we do split systems everywhere in sight, if the power will take it, but that's a separate issue. I'm not going to deal with that tonight. But if you do split systems all over the place, they don't bring in fresh air. They recirculate air. You haven't added the air to the unit that you need to exhaust. This isn't your home that when you go in the bathroom, you turn on the switch and the fan starts working because it's dumping the air somewhere out the front or out the back someplace, maybe even up through the roof, 2 stories. We're 170 feet. You're not going to use any rinky-dink fan that's going to exhaust those spaces. That's why the fans are on the roof, and there are 7 of them. They've been there for 60 years. It's worked fine. And to ignore that is a mystery to me, absolute mystery. I'm open to questions if somebody wants to ask questions, or the engineer wants to ask questions.
I think at the moment we'll take it and when I put it to questions to the applicant. Thank you, Doug.
Okay, thank you so
And
much.
yes, please give your statement to Miss Mary Catherine. All right, and then once he's gone back down, I just please state your name and then we'll absolutely take your statement too.
And careful of the cord.
Yeah, watch out. We've got a
Yeah.
sea of cords all lurking around here.
Good evening. My name is Eve Thompson and I also live in Heron House in the overlay district. I'm going to modify my note since we're not addressing the specific installation, but it's unfortunate that when the 1102 HVAC was installed, they did get a building permit, but for whatever reason, it did not trigger this this board's interaction or involvement prior to its installation. So now we have that system installed. And what I would like to really focus on is super important to note that the location of that installation, 1102, is the only floor plan where that installation works. And the reason for that is that the balcony wall demises or divides space inside that unit. That circumstance does not exist anyplace else in the building. All of the balcony walls either abut your neighbor's property or the air. And so the only way that anybody will ever, any of the rest of the units will be able to get refrigerant lines inside their unit would be to significantly modify that wall-to-wall, ceiling-to-floor sliding glass door to the balcony, which is, of course, you know, a horrifying thing to consider that we would have to, well, and I can't even imagine what the expense of it would be because I know that this, I want to just point out, you know, Heron House is a 16-story building. All of its systems are at a scale and designed to function together. And so believing that we can just sort of pluck out the air conditioning and pluck in something on our balconies, I don't think is well considered. All of our residents understand that the building's central air system will not be available this summer and that solutions are needed. But we don't feel, the owners of that building don't feel like there really has been a comprehensive analysis nor a comprehensive marketplace study that says, okay, what options are there for retrofitting a historic building? I mean, we know we're not really unique from that perspective. Certainly there are buildings all over the country that are being retrofitted with different types of systems. It's unfortunate that we're being kind of limited to two options, the mini split or a VRF, when we believe that there may be other options available. There's been some discussion within the community about whether or not accessibility laws such as ADA and fair housing might require our board to allow balcony mounted heat pumps. While we understand that reasonable accommodations might need to be made in certain circumstances, we don't think that those laws eliminate the ability to apply appropriate engineering and architectural standards for exterior building modifications. Most of it we have internally within our own community. We have put together a pretty robust resource guide for.
Please wrap up. It's 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, it's gonna butcher the building basically, unless you're in an O2 unit. No, none of the rest of them are gonna work.
Okay, thank you so much. And then I believe there's at least one other hand, by all means.
My husband's handing out some handouts that I'll refer to. I'm Nan Dearborn, an owner in Heron House. I'm going to speak about the proposal for Heron House, not for Quayside and not for Chimney House, just for Heron House. So the Historic Overlay District design guidelines for Lake Ann Village Center emphasize the center's historic significance for its high quality brutalist architecture. This is a quote, retaining a remarkably high level of historic integrity, close quote. The center is widely recognized as a symbol of rest. Fairfax County established this historic overlay district to preserve its architectural character and to ensure that any future changes would be compatible with its historic design. This proposal for Heron House mini splits represents just the sort of exterior alteration that the HOD guidelines were intended to protect against. The Heron House, 16-story residential high-rise, is specifically designated as a historic element and, quote, it serves as the focal point of the village, close quote. The HOD guidelines point out that units in Heron House, quote, feature balconies intended to connect the interior uses with the surrounding natural element. close quote. So I gave you a handout of the view of the wall of glass from inside our unit to the balcony. There's no other way that you could get anything through that glass into our unit other than altering that wall of glass. The brick wall to the left goes into my neighbor's unit. It does not go into my unit. So the so walls of glass, these balconies were never intended to house HVAC equipment. It's architecturally inappropriate to put heat pumps on Heron House balconies. Heron House was designed with a central HVAC system. It has all the infrastructure for a central system, except now, since RELAC closed, we have lost the source of cooling for our hydronic HVAC system. It doesn't make sense to discard a perfectly good central HVAC system and replace it with architecturally inappropriate or incompatible balcony heat pumps and mini splits. There are much better solutions. We are seeking an architecturally appropriate central solution which would utilize our existing central HVAC infrastructure and be less visually intrusive. So we passed out a handout about one such system. I'm sure there are others. This is Epica's Stone Pro air to water system. So this is not a crisis. As a temporary measure, many owners are already buying modern, self-evaporative, portable air conditioners to use this summer. We do not need the, quote, easiest, fastest solution, unquote, as our condo president characterized mini splits. We want thorough professional analysis and then to put our money into an architecturally appropriate solution. I'm asking you, the members of the ARB, to defer this proposal and wait for an appropriate central solution that will not diminish the architectural integrity of our historic building. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of public? Sorry, I just want to make sure I don't say one behind me. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you were over there by the call. Okay. Room is designed to assume I have a head that turns 360 degrees.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay, we have two. All right, by all means. No, it's okay.
I'll be quick. I'm Martha McGrath. I live in Heron House as well. I don't have a prepared statement because I wasn't going to speak, but there is one other very important element that hasn't been addressed that you should all be aware of. We have 16 floors of public space. You know, we have corridors. And this system that's being proposed for these balconies don't address climatizing those at all. So, you know, that's why we're seeking a whole building solution, because the huge amount of our space isn't even being addressed with the individual units. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, sir.
Thank you. My name is Cameron Adams. I am the Director of Covenants Administration at Reston Association. I am not representing Reston Association. I am just communicating some things that we thought that you all would be finding a little bit helpful as you discuss things. As you all know, the Fairfax County ARB also reviews things that the Design Review Board for Reston Association also reviews. And we've had a past of competing dynamics, if you will. And so one of the things that I wanted to make sure that you were aware of is that we wanted to be more collaborative in information sharing as a Design Review Board. So we have provided you all with a copy of our draft minutes from the last Design Review Board where this work session happened. It seems like there's some additional information that the DRB did not have its first go around. So thanks for incorporating some of those feedback things into your presentation tonight. But I did want to make sure that we did share those minutes with you all. I am here tonight to take back notes to the Design Review Board as they discuss. So if you have anything that you would like to make sure gets sent back to the Design Review Board, I'm happy to do that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, and we have one more member of the public. Yes, by all means. Make sure to state your name.
Yes, my name is Radhika Murari. I own a commercial unit at Lakehound Plaza. I'm actually reading a statement by Martha Green. She is ill today and could not make it. So I'm going to read it verbatim. Verbatim. My name is Martha Green and I've lived in the Heron House since 1978. That's not me.
Yep. Yeah.
had to be quite young to move there. I'm writing for many of our Heron House co-owners to ask you to defer any approval of this application until the LARCA board conducts professional engineering analyses of all options available to replace the support we have historically received from RELAT. The applicant suggests that balcony installed heat pumps will be an easy, simple, cost-effective solution for the 5 different types of Heron House units. We agree that this solution might be easy for the O2 units, since penetration of the balcony wall provides access to the O2 bedroom and the unit's single air handler. But it is not easy for the O4 units, since there is another unit on the other side of the balcony wall. In all the O1, O3, O4, and O5 units, tubes and electrical supply would need to come through the balcony glass, requiring owners to replace at least one framed panel, which cannot be brought up by elevator. In addition, extensive reconstruction will be necessary in the larger O1 and O3 units to reach 3 different air handlers, which not only adds expense, but affects the straight, clean, vertical, and horizontal lines of the interior design of this mid-century historic building. This proposed solution will also be visible on the exterior. The applicant suggests that the 1102 heat pump installation is only minimally visible from surrounding areas, but we do not know if perimeter clearance requirements have been met in this submitted installation. However, we know the heat pumps will certainly be visible for the O1 units, whose balconies constitute the majority of the east face of the building. The electrical supply for those units is at the south end of the balconies overlooking the lake. These heat pumps will be conspicuously visible and block access to the iconic corner planters. If moved to the center of the O1 balconies, their size will divide the balcony in half. We ask you to consider that this building, like most high-rises, was designed for a centralized heating and cooling system. There are many options for this, which, in the rush to get this solution approved, have not been studied. The Heron House owners understand that this temporary solution will be portable AC units inside their homes. We have already begun to purchase and install these. We want to take the time to thoroughly investigate every option for retaining a centralized system. In the last 10 years, we have invested over $1 million replacing our HVAC risers, and most owners have replaced their HVAC fan coil units. We believe, given the 5 to 8 year lifespan of the balcony units and the significant expense to remodel our interiors, that the final cost for a centralized solution and the proposed balcony solution would be roughly similar. We respectfully ask that you defer any approval of the solutions being presented tonight until LARCA has carefully reviewed all options.
Thank you.
Can I hand this?
Yes, please give it to Miss Mary Catherine so that she can add it to our record, though it's been recorded too.
All I need is to trip in front of everyone.
All right. So any other member of the public that would like to speak to this workshop item? Seeing none, you all more than welcome to come back up to the front. So we've had a presentation, we've heard public comments on it. And so traditionally when a workshop happens with the ARB, just for the folks who are here who may not see it often, this is not like a application for vote. So there isn't going to be any vote taken on this today. Instead, board members are going to ask questions, provide suggestions, and it's going to be more of a back and forth discussion with the applicant. So I turn it over to my board members who might have questions on the presentation that we got. And Jonathan, if you bring the presentation back up so we have it for discussion. So, who'd like to go first? Oh, Ms. Hammock.
I have a question and a comment. A question is procedural, and forgive me for not being well versed in the administration of Lake Anne. I'm confused. I just need clarification. Who is bringing, if this was an application to vote on, who would be bringing it forward? And would it be a master plan? Would we be saying as a board, yes, this is okay everywhere with the paintbrush? And then would the applicants, homeowners go straight to staff permit, or would still each homeowner need to come before us? But would they come before us for us just to evaluate, oh, this is in keeping with what we approved at that first approval? Okay, that's number one. That's like a procedural question moving forward, which I think we really need to iron out. Number two, how can the association bring something forward without the buy-in of every property owner? And if we approve some large HVAC master plan and a property owner doesn't want to abide to it, is it in their deed that they must, or do they? So I'm just like, it's a quagmire of how this is really going to play out. Number one. That
Go
was
ahead.
my question.
All right, I think most of your questions, Mary Catherine might have to speak more to when it comes to the board procedures. But the way I would understand this is if it were to be something similar to the signage plan or the lighting plan that we have at Laurel Hill, that would be something that would still require an approval. And even with most of the signage plans, it requires the ARB to vote on those unless staff, we've empowered staff to approve those. That would be
Correct. You could empower staff, you could and essentially delegate the review of each individual unit when it comes in for administrative approval. But you would need to specifically, and then staff would evaluate it against the comprehensive plan that you all have endorsed.
so.
If there was a deviation or, there's an anomaly with a unit that they can't comply, they would have to come back before the ARB.
So for me to feel comfortable approving a master plan, I would need to know the location of every potential unit at every resident, where it was going to be on the balcony or the roof, etc. And then out of curiosity, like, how would you then enforce that with the property owner to comply with said ARB master plan? Okay, that's a
That
problem. for
second
another
one
day.
goes outside of
Okay.
us.
But like, that's important, but.
And
not-
that may be more of a question to, I don't know, Ms. Lazo as a community manager.
Because then if we approve something that doesn't meet the master plan, but meets HOD requirement, you see what I'm saying? Like, then are we like, no, we can only approve the master plan?
Well, and as Cameron, who was with the Reston DRB pointed out, there are many there he is over there. There are many layers of review and approval associated with Lake Ann. So I don't know what the DRB's process would be either for this, but obviously because there is a association that governs Lake Ann, there is a layer of review that occurs at that level that we as the ARB have no purview or control over.
Okay.
So similar to like Holland Hills that has its own DRB and they review applications there. We may coincide with each other in our opinions on something, and we may completely disagree on those decisions. Similar with the Reston DRB, Reston DRB may agree with something and we may not agree, or we may coincide with that. But again, county board does not have authority, nor does the rest of the board have authority over us. So I think your question is really timely in the sense of when something were to come to us, if it were going to need an approval, we would want to have understanding of how both LARCA and or DRB review had occurred, or what was the timing of that to inform our review, which is something we frequently ask when we get into the situation of where is it at in the other review process.
Yeah.
Just because we approved it, let's say, doesn't mean it got approved by the other entities.
Okay, okay, that was my question. My comment is if we could scan to page 26 in the presentation, we haven't spoken about this building type and there was no testimony on it, but just looking at this, I'm on my PDF, it's page second to last page.
Is there a page number at the bottom?
Well,
Scroll
3, 1 and 2, all the way at the bottom, like the row houses. Yeah, keep going.
Yep.
Wait, why is it not in your present?
The package that
Do you not have
Ms. Hammock has a picture of the shaft in it.
with the mock-up of no, you don't have this? Does everybody else have?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's a picture of the rear of the row house. I use that loosely. Townhomes would be a better word, with a mock-up of a generated rendering of a wood screen and then a large HVAC duct assumably in like a matte aluminum.
That's from the daily
Different.
Italiano exhaust ducting application.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean,
okay.
it is in that PDF that we all download, but not in today's presentation.
Okay, all right, so I got confused. Anyway, so you
Yeah.
don't have, so the only thing in your presentation that you've mocked up is the suitcase units.
We're not talking about Deli Italiano.
Yeah, that one got deferred. Okay, I got confused. So the only mock-up that you provided is for these suitcase units. Right, okay.
Correct.
I think that, I know your firm does preservation and has a great team. You've done some really great projects, like the boathouse in DC, right? Yeah. So I know you have the expertise, and granted, you've probably been given like a limited timeline to do things, but this is such an important site, not just for Fairfax, but really like nationally. Like this site you read about in graduate school. It's one of the first sites I visited when I moved here, or back to here. I went with my baby on maternity leave and bought a book at the used bookstore. It was a really neat book. Anyway, and I think that there really needs to be a study, and the woman that testified in the checkered blouse, I'm sorry, ma'am, I forget your name, was really the only one that touched on like the architectural significance. But so much has been written about this, both at the time of construction, right after, and since, about the materiality, the choices. What I love about this type of architecture is that the architect wrote about his theory on his choices of materials. So you don't have to guess, well, what was he thinking? Because he wrote about it, and then people commented on it. And it's probably, I mean, you could just go crazy reading architectural articles on this. Anyway, if you're going to introduce visible materials in this district, there has to be discussion on the materiality of it historically and how your new materials relate well. And you have, and it's not going to be a hard argument to make because there's so much written about it, but it is going to take some time and analysis and not convincing, just someone's going to have to actually do the reading and figure it out. And I'm looking forward to hearing that analysis, but I expect it if there's going to be new materials introduced that are seen from a public right away.
Thanks, Ms. Hamnick. Other board members?
Well,
Ms. Mangum.
touching on Ms. Hammock's original question, I think I just wanted to note the action item we just deferred was for a mini split at Heron House.
Yes.
So I think, I guess I don't know to the extent that you can answer, but I mean, nothing in this presentation is prohibiting individual unit owners from coming directly to us to request these now? Or is there a plan being worked out right now to?
Nothing from
Ooh,
this board
nail on the head.
prohibits
Okay.
somebody from proposing and getting to this board for an application. If the other mechanisms they have to go through to get that approved have prohibited them, that would be another constraint. Like I was talking about with the layers of review that Lake Ann has with obviously LARCA plus the rest of the design review board. There are several layers. So there's nothing from this board's perspective saying that something checks a building permit or mechanical permit that requires an ARB review for them to come here. The same thing with an application. We can take not just members from the public, but members, statements from organizations and groups, which could include, condominium groups, cluster associations, community associations, other design boards. We've had many of those groups provide their own statements regarding an application, whether for or against. So this is my understanding in talking with Jason, our chair, and myself, like Mayor Kaplan, this is a proactive discussion to say if we see HVAC units being proposed in Lake Ann, which I think that's a reality that one has to acknowledge, there's going to be HVAC changes. What is the ARB's approach? And one approach is what is being presented here is something that would look at it more pragmatically.
Holistic.
Yeah, holistically, yes. And give us a way to perhaps provide consistency for what could and could not with guaranteeing an ARB approval.
But it's not something that the association would manage. So you wouldn't be the overseer of everybody getting these units. You would just be you would be doing.
That's why I get all the applications and I turn it into you guys,
Okay.
but then I want the applicant to come with me to present it as well.
And that would happen individually over and over again. There wouldn't be the master plan level and then all sub things.
I mean, that's why we're coming here to do this working session
It
because.
might be better if you go over
I'm
here,
sorry.
just for recording's sake, so for the minutes, so, sorry, I just wanted to make sure that I got
Yeah,
all
no, thank you. I
recorded into
appreciate
the minutes and everything.
Okay.
Sorry. That's why we're here in the working session, because we would like to have a master plan, if that could be, because I have 37 applications waiting and more coming next
Okay.
week. I mean, I have Chimney House and Quayside unit owners who are really, they want to have their HVAC units on the roof, right?
Okay.
None for Heron House, because we know that we're still working on that.
Okay.
And that's why we've hired
One for Heron House.
the one, and it got deferred.
And that's it.
because he's not here, so I.
Okay.
don't know.
Okay.
Speak on his behalf.
Okay.
So I guess to pull on Ms. Mangum's questioning, if hypothetically there was a plan for Lake Ann, if it was consistent with that, that might come to the board and we would have our process for reviewing it. Right now, if someone proposes something like that, it first comes through you. So those can be either sent forward or held back. I'm assuming there's some mechanism, or is there a mechanism?
I mean, what I usually like to know is what you guys ask for. I'll review it. I mean, we do have the covenants committee,
Okay, but there's entities that can review that at LARCA also.
Yeah.
Okay.
and then the board, so it goes to
Okay.
covenants, the board. But at this time, because of our time crunch, obviously, the covenants committee's aware, but it just,
Right, that's helpful information. And again, that gets to the layers of different reviews that occur at Lake Ann.
Right.
Okay, sorry, Ms. Mangum.
No, that is exactly helpful of like what is the ultimate ask versus, the one-off type of reviews. So I just, to follow along, has anybody at Heron House proposed something other than a mini split system right now?
no.
Okay.
Just, we have homeowners have their opinions as you heard them, and we respect it. But the board is still looking into it, and we just hired PEG, who we've hired before, and they're familiar with Heron House. So they're looking at all these options that everybody has asked for.
Okay.
Mr. Burns.
Yeah, I commented that I didn't think there was adequate information for us to make intelligent choices. And I think the same is the case here. Like the very simple question is, these are all condos, correct? Okay, and my recollection, I once owned a condo, is I owned inside and the condo association owned the outside.
Right.
So who owns these units that are now on the outside?
It would be the unit owner. which is-
So there is some transition of ownership through the condo association ownership of the perimeter enclosure. And so all right, so that you got to.
Yeah.
You have to figure out that
Yeah, I mean,
the responsibility for that. I mean, who caulks the connector?
yeah, I mean.
That sort of
The
thing.
unit owner needs to let us know what they've put on our roof. We need to be aware of anybody that's on the roof because it belongs to the association. We need to have a certificate of insurance from their vendor to go up on the roof, and we request that.
Okay, and then following up on what Ms. Magnum was getting to, I fear getting hundreds of applications coming to the ARB for one that would overwhelm us. But if we've worked out some master system and it dumped all of them on county staff, our county staff can't deal with everything that we currently have. And so to have all of these extra, you said 37 in a month?
2 weeks.
Yeah, okay, and it, boom, now lands in your lap. That is, I don't think the county's prepared to do timely reviews on that sort of stuff. And yeah, maybe we could rubber stamp them, okay. All right, so that's another thing. Then simply, how is heat provided? I'll say separately, I think, in Heron House versus Quayside and Chimney House.
We still have the boilers.
So there are boilers.
Yeah.
So there's 3 boilers, one for each of the,
I don't know. Sorry, I'm not, my engineer is more aware of that, but yes,
And-
we have, Heron House is larger, so they have more obviously a larger amount, like bigger boilers, but
Boilers,
yes,
boilers.
yes.
Okay, I'm getting all sorts of people wanting to raise their
Yeah,
hand.
I'm sure they know.
I'll answer the question if you.
Please.
There are two boilers in Heron House. There's one in what's called Quayside. And there is one in, they broke Chimney House into A, the larger element, and B, which is the smaller element. So each one has a boiler. Let me just give you a little background. When the project was originally designed, there were 4 boilers in the basement of Heron House, and Heron House sent the hot water to Quayside and to the J. When it became a condominium, number one of the pipes failed. They decided to split it up, and each building had its, so chimneys were built. We had a chimney in Heron House, I speak for Heron House, but they were, chimneys were constructed and separate boilers and circulating pumps were put in each one of those new boiler rooms. But they're always single boilers. Heron House has 2 because student engineering says you have a backup.
Okay, and what is the fuel source for those?
Natural gas.
Okay. Then the units that this gentleman, I've forgotten your name, I apologize, you described just provides chilled water. That's all.
The relax system?
No, the systems that you were proposing.
No, the heat pumps would function like a traditional heat pump.
So it provides heat and cooling.
Yes.
So are you, that's where I was getting to, is that this heat pump provides heating and cooling. And so there's no longer need for the boilers?
Well, I'm the structural engineer again.
Okay.
Outdoor preservation expert. So I'm not a mechanical engineer. That'd be something that the mechanical engineer.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure this all
Yeah,
out.
so are we.
Yeah,
Right?
okay,
Agree.
okay.
Yeah.
And it appears as though, other than the O2 units on each floor of Heron House, that how were you proposing to get the supply lines that you're talking about at Heron House into those units,
So.
other than the O2?
So in talking with the mechanical engineer, obviously there's a penetration required in order to get through the exterior walls. So they wouldn't go straight through the walls, right? If there's a perpendicular wall that's adjacent to the heat pump, that's a separate unit, there would be an alternate solution. It would go into the wall cavity and move perpendicularly through the cavity to go to the interior. It could go through frames on the windows, right? Suboptimal, obviously. But there's alternative paths to get something into the building and into the units.
Okay, but you've not done any opening up of walls and all to explore the potential of doing that, because the photograph one of the presenters gave to us, it looks as though you've got the underside of the slab here. I assume that's on slab there. So, and if you go through that wall, you go in the neighbor's unit. And how do you get through? Are they correct that you would have to take out one of the full height glass doors?
Based on the conversations that we had with the mechanical engineers, that would not be the case.
Okay. Okay. I am skeptical. And then with regard to the units on Eastside and Chimney House, you proposed using the pad as opposed to the 8-inch taller unit. I'm concerned that the rooftops with these things mounted on these pads are going to become giant tympanums. And you're going to get lots and lots of vibrations coming into that, through that roof. So what is the structure underneath that roof? Is there sound separation? Or the vibration is going to go straight through?
No, I assume the units would be supported by some type of isolator. So that's not an issue. I guess is the question, you'd prefer to see dunnage?
No, what I want to find out is what will the impact of these things be? If you're putting them on wooden roof joists, right? How do you manage the sound, or minimize the sound impact from the vibrations of these units.
Again, maybe a question better posed to the mechanical.
Okay, okay. Well, then my second question, follow-up question for this mechanical engineer who's not here is, how much noise do these things put out? I'm concerned. In the J, I think you had 30 some units. And they're all running at high speed in July. And you're out there at the farmer's market. Are you going to be able to hear yourself think?
That's a fair point. I think, what I would offer maybe in response is there are plenty of residential spaces where this type of installation is exactly what you have, right? In a modern townhome community, right, which might exist 3 miles away, that type of installation is exactly what you have. So obviously the equipment is modern, right? It's rotary style heat pumps, the fans, so quieter than a traditional heat pump would be like I have in my house. But again, the response I'd offer is that it's a similar to a traditional residential application.
Oh, just kind of in response to that, whenever we put the condensing units on the roof, the sound tends to project itself up. It's less distraction to the actual units and the people on the ground. At least that's been my experience. So I don't think that's going to have as much effect as the vibration effect on the roof itself. So something's going to have to be done to isolate the vibration of the units from the roof structure.
I totally appreciate what you're offering, right? But it's not the first time we put a heat pump on the roof, right?
Yeah.
I assume, again, as not a mechanical engineer, I assume there's a readily available solution that could be implemented. That would be fine.
Well, sure, they have, isolation feet, they have dampers, they have different ways of dealing with it. Do you know what type of construction quayside is? The roof and the same with the chimney house, are they wood frame?
They're wood framed, the roof structure itself is wood frame.
Okay.
Before I go back to Ms. Hammond. Ms. Hammond.
I'm just skimming the National Register report, which is recent. It's from 2014, maybe. It's a great report. And it talks about all the reasons why the district is significant. And one of it is the social vision, which we haven't really discussed much. Maybe Holland Hills is maybe the only other district that really had such a strong vision to really change how people live. But it lists a lot of reasons, but it says, additionally, Reston Lake and Air Conditioning Corporation, RELAC, a closed chilled water system, provides air conditioning from late May to early October. You guys all know this. RELAC was considered a very progressive system when it was built in the 1960s, and to this day is unique in that it is the only chilled water public utility in Virginia. I'm not saying that we can put RELAC back. That ship has sailed. I know that. But I think that when we think about the cumulative effects of the change to the district, we need to think about this layer of significance unique to Lake Anne, this social significance, and that the spirit, the construction was to be sustainable, which meant something. Now we say that willy-nilly, but in the 60s that was really progressive. So I don't know, that really puts like a bug in people's tea, because we also want people to live with air conditioning and being comfortable. And we understand that buildings get dated and technology changes, and it's not really an adaptive reuse because the change is not change, like the use isn't changing, still residential and commercial, but it is an adaptive reuse in the way that we're adapting to changing technology. So I'm just kind of putting that out there. I think whatever we approve is going to have to be a marriage of those two important thought lines.
Okay, I'm going to hit you with a barrage of things because that's okay, unless you want to go.
I just,
You build
this
up.
popped up as a standard again, your drawing there. Relax serve more than Larka stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking potentially, it's both the Woodward Smith townhouses, and is it also the Goodman townhouses on the other side of there?
It's not in our
And-
HOD.
Don't give us more problems.
No, what I'm saying is that those folks are dealing with the same
Yes.
issue of losing their communal source of chilled water. And I kind of agree with Gabriella is that nobody is talking about changing the social contract in the original design of Reston of we're all in this together. And everybody's gone their own way now. And that's a very substantial change from what was envisioned, what's been written in that, what's been chronicled in the National Register nomination. So just want to be aware of that. Sorry.
Oh, sure. Mr. Kalinsky.
Yeah, just one last thing. Mr. Schipperbaum's comments about the ventilation through the building. I mean, the building itself is a huge, complicated system, structural, mechanical, electrical, all those things. It just needs to be addressed in your plan. You know, the whole health of the building, the whole mechanical system build, not what we've seen or what has been presented here tonight. Is there seems to be a quick, easy way, which is, I mean, you outlined there was a couple options, but the last one and you kind of focused on was the condensing units on the balconies. I'm not saying it's the option or not the option. I'm just saying, as you go forward, I think you need to consider the entire building and give that thought and address all those issues as part of your overall plan.
Yeah, that we understand. Really, this is more for Quayside and Chimney House. This is what we're focusing on because that's why we're doing the study to Heron House. So we just want to show you what's been done. So you know all of our history. We still would come back with a presentation.
Okay.
You have someone else, Samantha?
I just want to echo some question and hoping that not get left out answered. So thank you for that air intake question. I think it has been heard a couple of times that there is the common area conditioning does not get addressed, and I think we'd like to. The engineer has a
Yes,
also
we're working
at
100%.
right.
Yes.
Also, my colleague Gabriella also asking about the question of if this system, it's probably outside of our jurisdiction, but if this system does not have the resident to buy in, what is the ripple effect on that?
Like for us to purchase it or for us?
Right, you put forward a proposal, but we has been.
So you're asking what happens if this isn't, like, I think that's a question of LARCA is evaluating this. What happens if it is, how does it, it's going to have to get voted on in some capacity, I'm assuming, by your board.
I have my legal counsel here. I'll have more luck.
Okay. All right, I think we just want to understand that side of it without trying to opine on it.
Good evening. My name is Marla Diaz. I'm the legal counsel for LARCA. To answer your question, there will need to be unit owner buy-in into whatever plan is adopted. The documents require that to the extent that there are alterations to the common elements, and everything we're talking about is common elements, even the balconies. So anytime there's alterations to the common elements, they have to be approved by the board of directors. But if they exceed a certain dollar figure, they also have to be approved by 66 2/3 of the benefited owners. So when we're talking about big changes like this, we're going to have to get buy-in from the unit owners.
Okay. Thank you. Sure. Did I go to what you were seeking?
Kind of, I still digesting it.
Still digest it. Okay. So I've got a lot of comments. One is a remorseful comment in the sense that I have consistently conveyed that this board would happily work with LARCA and the other entities earlier on this issue than now, when we are already experiencing temperatures that, not today, but yesterday, we're approaching 80 degrees. So it's frustrating to have this conversation now. I understand you were doing studies, but this HOD has not changed. It has been here. This board has been here. The vote that we have to have on applications has been here. So that is a little frustrating to how late I feel like we are again in the game. even though I've expressed that to Walter Alcorn when I was chair of the board at one point as well. So especially me and Ms. Wan have offered to aid in that as board members who, you know, live in Reston and want to see this be successful. So I continue to offer that as the board wants to get to a solution that allows people to enjoy and live in their properties. Our statement of purpose is absolutely echoes that point. You can't enjoy historic property if you can't live in it. So that's a common theme I'm going to point out here. But I'm going to kind of take the buildings or the process kind of step up high, and then I'm going to go down my thoughts on each of them. So as you saw by our first application, and I prophetically predicted to Mary Catherine that site visuals and information on that first unit were going to be critical. It is going to be immensely critical moving forward. So one of the things I think that we're going to need in the event of any type of plan, personally from my perspective, is we're going to need better documentation on the roofs. We're going to need better documentation on the buildings, on those locations, sight lines and photography like that to show us these viewpoints. Because every time one of these applications comes up, we have the same questions about, well, what does it look like from here? What does it look like from there? And I feel frustrated when I force an applicant to have to consider deferring something, and particularly an applicant meaning a homeowner or a business owner to say, go back and get me pictures. When if we could make it more consistent that these are the things we need to understand what it's going to look like from those site views, because it is immensely critical in Lake Ann, particularly when we had the issue with the wireless units trying to be put on top and add additional spires on top of Henry House. I had a whole tissy fit on here about that because it's creating a false historicism of creating this new crenellations on top of the building that are not the original ones. And the applicant was like, oh no, we'll make them look just like it. Yeah, but it's not the original ones. So it's lying. It's a deception. And that's not necessarily what we're trying to achieve here in historic preservation. So going forward, I think this package is really helpful, but views from those different angles, as well as views from the roof, as well as drawings of the roof plan. I mean, these plans exist. Because
we have those. And as I mentioned, right, so at this working session, it's just not economically responsible to produce all of those documents and then present them to you and have you say, well.
And for you as the consultant, it's definitely, I'm saying it more to the applicant is.
It's not good for the resident.
I think having that, particularly any plan that comes forward, having that as some master document that's showing, I'm thinking of the lighting plans and the signage plans that were developed for two of our site down in Laurel Hill. Well, it was brand new construction. It was an extensive document that showed this area and showed where things were going to go or where things could go, as well as a lot of contextual information that made it very easy to understand what you were looking at. And given this board isn't static, it changes. I think that's immensely going to be helpful for understanding that, because I think one question we always wonder is, well, what is the parapet like on any of these buildings? How much we were asking, like, what can you see? What can't you see? We never have a picture from that angle. We always have the grainy Google Earth picture looking down on it. And, you know, I went there and got my haircut there last week. And so I looked all these angles and evaluated that from my vision point. But having that contextual information for any package going forward is going to be critical as we get there. Stepping it to looking at that as well, I think there's no way you could do a singular plan for this. I think it would be much wiser to do an individual plan for each of these three little units, one for Chimney, one for Quayside, and one for Henry House. They're two different. I think you could possibly say Chimney and Quayside are similar, but Henry House, it's a totally different creature. And so having a plan that would guide all of them and trying to do it timely, I think you're potentially running into it's just not going to be achievable personally. Looking at Chimney House, the biggest issue I see there every time it comes in is how is it visualized? And, you know, every other application we see that comes in for HVAC, they have an angle of the house. They can always tuck it behind. Chimney House does not provide that. The whole building, because of the way it's designed, isn't meant to be a piece. There's only very minimal sections where the view of it is not something that's important. So I think that viewshed analysis or understanding of what that looks like from all those different angles, whether it's putting someone's cardboard box up there or, you know, putting something very bright up there. So we can say that here's an orange painted box so that you can actually see what the units currently look like. So we can track that from that information, because it is something that someone can see from so many different vantage points. I'm not worried about the sound side of it when it comes to attenuating, because I think Mr. Kalinsky pointed out that if it's done right, and I have to trust the mechanical person that it should hopefully diffuse itself upward. My concern is also, do we have enough spaces to send those lines down? We brought up the application just got approved before. Those openings are getting pre-packed. And then if those are starting to fill up, where are those going? And what happens to the owners on the second story? Are we having lines going through their own homes? So there's a lot of other things that are missing here, particularly regarding conduit. While there's the ideal solution that we use an existing shaft, that's not there. Where is it going? And if it's going on the outside of the building, we've seen how that can be done poorly and look unsightly. Quayside, I think, has similar problems, Chimney House. So the only other comment I'd make on both of those is I have mixed feelings about screening, because screening actually makes everything more visible. A wooden structure or a slatted structure on top of these buildings suddenly adds a visual layer that gets lost if you just have a gray mechanical unit that may blend into the skyline compared to something that is, designed, because then it draws my eye, because you don't want to look nasty because it draws my eye. And if it's pretty, then it's going to draw my eye too. So I'm hesitant to see anything that suggests a screening mechanism personally, because I think that actually detracts. Hendron House, most of my board members have spoken to everything else. I think I agree with them. This one is challenging because I think it's a building that's designed to be supported by a singular system. And I have a hard time reconciling the idea that an individual unit solution is ideal when a building was built with infrastructure and structural design to support it centrally. And so I saw that there were lots of analysis done. I think the board would appreciate seeing some of that information if it can be shared with us, because I would love to know what was looked at here, as well as there are other factors and systems. Well, we're not the board to approve what system you use or, what is the mechanical ideal solution. Knowing more about the analysis that was done in this would result in less of these like scattershot questions you're getting from us about things that, well, how do you heat the building? Because that was going to be, John asked that, that was going to be my question too. I'm like, well, okay, you're cooling it and heating it with the system. But how is it getting heat now? Like what happened today and things like that. I am more comfortable personally with a solution that has a larger impact in a singular area as opposed to a solution that has an impact on this building just all over it. And I think this picture right here really helped me out, because when the last application got deferred, that was one of my biggest concerns. The application that I saw did not really have any real contextual information for me on visual sightlines on this. I had no idea where it was, other than knowing the building floor numbers, what floor it was going to be on. And knowing that this might be, knowing from this angle of a unit, what kind of effect we might be having to each unit when you install one of these, because that kind of gives me some anxiety that, well, maybe we could go sideways or we could go this. And I know you're not the mechanical guy, but that's the thing that worries me the most. I think knowing with your firm, there are solutions that could do it sensitively to the structure of the building. But I think the fallout or the collateral damage of it could be far greater. And if you cumulatively add that up, I think you do this building a greater disservice by covering it in units compared to a single solution. Now, I don't get to decide that. I'm just personally telling you as an architectural historian, I think I can much find a way to better tolerate a larger solution that solves it and lets people have livable units than now every unit has to go through a facadectomy, and that may or may not result in something that is going to incrementally degrade the integrity of this building.
I think that's a really fair and well-founded point. It was a fork in the road that the MEP engineer had to make a decision on. So, yeah, I think it's an excellent point. With respect to small modifications in numerous areas versus one more significant modification, I think, again, it's an illustration that there's some degree of compromise in order to modernize HVAC system in a historic building. We all recognize it.
I know there's a lot. And again, I stand by the fact that I think any type of plan, you're going to have much better success if you separate that plan into individual focus components, because it's a lot easier to work potentially with rooftop units than it is to work with what's going on at Hendron House and try to blanket approve something that where one is very clearly diametrically opposed to the way the structure operates, in my opinion. That's just so it's just me being chairing this meeting. I get the last chance to say something after I let everyone else go. So sorry, I felt like a big data dump. If there's any other members that want to follow up on other things.
I agree with you. Like, I think if we approve a master plan, we have to be really comfortable with every single property owner in doing work according to the master plan. And I think we can say, and I agree with you, the cumulative effect would be a detriment, and we want to approve these individually as they come forward. Because technology changes and there might be a better solution. You know what I mean? If we approve a master plan, we kind of put a period on it, and things may evolve. And I also think that I've been looking at historic images of Reston Town Center, and it really drives home the point that these would be very, if seen, these balcony units would be really detracting on Heron House. And not that anything is going to go back in time and be pristine, but the architecture is just so sculptural. It's really amazing. So anyway, sorry to.
No, I think I was just, in terms of next steps, I was going to ask whether it makes sense or is helpful to you all. Like, it sounds like maybe Quayside and Chimney House are a little bit more advanced with ideas that are more acceptable to the majority of those property owners versus Heron House. And so is that helpful that you could move forward with a master plan for two of the properties and not with Heron House at this point?
Yeah, I mean, all the feedback that you gave us, I wrote it down so that I request this for each application. But I guess our question is in the guidelines. You're not going to be able to review 37. So how long is it going to take? Do we have a deadline? Is there a special deadline? Or do we have to wait till next month to review 37 applications? You know what I mean?
37 applications.
I mean, there's a submission process to the board, and those packages have to have all the requisite materials they need. And if I will just, there's no way we can approve a plan like that before any of those show up. The chair, who I'm the vice chair, would have to work with staff on what we have the capacity to review. We have had 2 meetings in 1 month to accommodate that, but I'll even say the number 37 is not even compared to the amount of applications we've reviewed in a single time frame. So, you know, I can't tell you not to submit them. There's no process to say no. But I will say that it is going to become cumulatively harder for those applications unless they are well presented and well prepared. Because the board thinks about that as it starts to refute, particularly, you know, when we're looking at applications for new properties that are adjacent to historic properties getting HVAC units, it's one thing. When we're looking at a property that is the contributing property to the HOD getting that, each one of those is an additional action that's affecting the integrity of that building, and each one of these members weighs that, you know, comparatively. So it's I guess I work for federal government, so I guess I'm doing a very good not giving you an answer kind of maneuver, because I'm really good at it.
Well, we would love to see a plan
Yeah.
first. I mean, I think what we would ideally want is to have consensus with the board on a plan for at least both of those buildings before you start requesting individual approvals on individual units. But
I think you
don't know if I realize summer's coming, so.
We had to
Winter's
do a roll
coming.
call vote on that last one. And there was objection from members to that application. That can become more common. So I would caution, you know, if it's not well thought out, it could run into a very clear, and the board doesn't feel it could approve those items too. So that's I can't predict that. Just, you know, based on this discussion here, there's a lot of things we don't feel like we know about those, particularly those 2 structures, not setting aside Henry House and all the other the little facets that we need to think about there. John, you look like you had something you want to add.
Yeah, a couple of things. Could we have a site visit?
We have to.
I mean, if we walk the walk with these things, I think we would have a much better understanding of them. I'm certainly willing to, you know.
I'm happy to go up on the roof. Yeah. As long as the attorney's okay. It's nice.
Well, and we, you know, if we do it with more than 2 of us at a time, they're at public meeting disclosures that we have to file and all sorts of stuff.
And we can't gather in a large group. It's dangerous. It's called a meeting.
Well, we could advertise it.
Well, okay, but anyway, that
Public.
first thing, so that to see the problem. I better visualize the impact of things if I can see the problem, and I would appreciate that opportunity, however it might be arranged. The other thing that no one has mentioned so far, so I'll bring it up now, so we're at the end of the comments, is that when you come up with a plan for how you would like to approach this problem, think about what happens in 15 years when all of these units begin to fail at the same time.
He's an expert.
You know, have a plan for sustaining whatever design you come up with over time, because they won't all fail at the same time. They're all going to get replaced in a very short time frame, but they'll fail. And they're going to need to come back, and we're going to have to deal with, 9 different types of fan coil units or heat pumps at that, or whatever the technology is at that time. But think about what happens when all of these things need to be replaced 15 years from now. I doubt that I will be here, but somebody else will be, and they'll have to deal with it.
You're gonna be chair emeritus by then.
Yeah.
So, all right, any other? I feel like we gave you a lot to think about. The option for a site visit, we've done it for a lot of different things, particularly work with Mary Catherine. We can definitely try to arrange that. I think that would be helpful, particularly if we're gonna be seeing an influx of these applications. And I stand by the statement that the board has in the past had members provide some insight to applicants as they're approaching this. It's not, you're not getting a, hey, the board says yes, but we have members of the board who have been able to have a conversation with an applicant beforehand and meet with them, as long as it's not over 2 of us, because then it requires a whole, but we've been able to provide some preliminary insight into what you might be running into and help kind of flesh through that. Can't say that anyone would be able to do that, but that is also something we've offered in the past. I think actually it was you and I in the past, I think, met with Larka years ago, I feel like, but to talk about other issues.
And the relax.
And the RELAC folks, actually, way back in the day. So, okay, thank you so much for coming. And thank you to any of our members of the public who came and are deciding they may not want to stay for the rest of our meeting.
Question. You mentioned in passing that you've been asking, I think you said the LARCA board to talk about this HVAC issue. I'm a new owner and I'm unsettled by I don't know what to say diplomatically. When did you first contact LARCA about this?
I have a hard time recalling the exact issue, but probably be the first time there was a major failure of RELAC. And that would be through the assistance of the supervisor's office that we offered to help with the other groups that helped try to come up with this issue. So it is we're a county entity that has a review process. We've been engaged in the past when there have been issues with RELAC. And so we've offered, as a former chair, now vice chair, we have continuously offered to always try to be helpers to help these entities get to a solution. That's, I couldn't give you exact timelines right now off the top of my head, but.
Was your offer rebuffed or?
We've been to meetings and stuff, but I would say it's just continuously ebbed and flowed. And our involvement has ebbed and flowed. It wouldn't be the first time for any place where that's happened. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's move on to our next workshop item. We waited so patiently. All right. Our next workshop item is ARB WK 2026 MD 00004, I think. Workhouse Way alterations located 8941 Workhouse Road. It's in the Lorton Laurel Hill MOA eligible district. The applicant is proposing the repair and maintenance of buildings W1, W12, W17, W18, and WB01 for the Workhouse Arts Center. Mr. Franklin Roberts. Yes, represents.
Frank Roberts with Fairfax County Public Works, and actually, I have an architect with me who will be taking the lead on the presentation. Candace Hoskins with HGA.
All right.
Would you please approach the podium and reintroduce yourself so the microphones pick it up?
Oh,
Thank you.
For the record again, my name is Frank Roberts. I'm with Fairfax County Public Works. I'm project manager for this
And I have a
project.
friend.
I have with me Candace Hoskins
You don't need to climb up on
from
her.
HCA, who will be handling the presentation that she can't answer as well. Thanks.
What number still works?
Thank you all so much. Today, we're going to be talking about the Workhouse Arts Center. Buildings we're going to be talking about are unoccupied. These are immediate repairs at the end of the conclusion of the work we're proposing. They will still be unoccupied. So the first immediate repairs are for making safe and then stabilizing the buildings, basically weatherproofing, keeping them from the. Everyone knows where the Workhouse Arts Center is.
Yeah, feel free to, because we're getting into the late hours, feel free, the things you assume we might know, feel free to breeze past those to focus on the meat.
Because I'm sure.
For your sake and ours, since I know you guys had to endure a lengthy workshop before you.
And we're good. Everyone knows it's on the registry and then it's in the National Registry Eligibility Historic Area in Laurel Hill. So we'll go to the next slide. Buildings we're talking about, W12 at the front of the site, at the back, W1, W17, WB01, and W18. Just an overview of what's at all these buildings, what the buildings are. W1, exterior masonry walls, a combination on W1 of slate, asphalt, and built-up roofing. You can see it's had multiple additions over the years. The tan roofs are all the built-up roofs. W12, exterior brick walls, slate roof, metal windows, wood trim. There's a sort of a pattern here. We'll go to the next one, just to give you an overview of what these look like. W17, WB01, W18 are basically joined together. W17 has the slate roof, metal windows with trim. W18 has an sloped asphalt shingled roof. It has metal windows with trim, and WB01 in the middle with the flat roof has wood windows with trim. So now we'll move on to the repairs. Repairs are for alleviating any potential safety hazards. This for W1 at the north and south porticos. We've got a collapsing roof. It was an infill that wasn't original to the building, and so we're going to remove that because it's falling down right now. Inside the building, we're going to place covers over open trenches that were used for steam lines. Going next to the next building, W12. This building has covers that were placed into the masonry at the window coverings. It's damaged the brick, so we're going to take those down, keep them, store them, put in framework that's appropriate, that's got attachments into the masonry. W17, we've got some interior finishes that are falling down at the stair tower addition. The ceiling of the stair tower addition, we're taking that out. Then we have some fascias that are falling down at the north corner. So that's coming down. We'll rework those. W18, we've got some masonry repairs that are damaged, brick displaced. We're going to fix those using brick to match existing, mortar to match existing. Now we're just going to move on to interim weatherproofing. Left-hand corner, you can see where the built-up roofs are. Those are at the end of their useful life, so we're going to remove those and replace them with a 2-ply modified bitumen system. We will install copper fascias and gravel stops to match existing, and from the ground, that's basically all you're going to see. This is what we're going to be matching, the copper fascias and gravel stops. There's some slate roof repairs that are needed at W1, W12, W17. Dark gray slate, we're going to use slate to match existing that have been damaged. W18, this is the asphalt shingled roof. It has some holes in it, obviously some damage to the deck. we'll repair those with shingles that we can get to match as closely as possible. The roof is obviously not original to the building. Interim weatherproofing again, W1, W17, WBO1, and W18 all have missing downspouts. Some of them have missing gutters. And so what we're going to do is provide temporary gutters and downspouts to direct water away from the building. We're going to place that water on the ground. We're not going to hook into the existing underground system because it's not fully reliable. We're going to be using aluminum gutters that, just because these are temporary, aluminum gutters and downspouts to match existing profiles. And we were going to have them pre-finished dark browns. You could noticeably see the change in the material. Also, we have several entry doors on site that are damaged and malfunctioning, so we have to address this so that people can get easily into the buildings. And we've circled those here. So frames would stay and we would replace the doors with better locks that would function properly and doors that we could actually get open. Numerous broken windows. Obviously, the sealant is poor around these windows, so we need to provide protective coverings for these. They would be coverings for the full window, not just the broken parts, the full windows. All fasteners would be properly placed in the mortar joints. They'd be painted plywood or core plastic sheets. More waterproofing issues. Selective repair and repointing at open joints and voids. There's not a lot of this, but there's some of it typically at where the downspouts are missing. Again, we're going to match the original brick and mortar. And at the W17 stair tower edition, that's a later edition, we've got open joints that just need sealant back around. Also, we're going to have to address the vegetation that's grown on the building and adjacent to the foundations. So we need to remove that. We're also going to, planning to address the lintels. We have some that are heavily corroded, others that are in pretty good shape, definitely need cleaning, painting. So we'll work with those. Several of the buildings have masonry walls adjacent to the roofs that have parapet caps. These are custom terracotta copings. Some of them are loose, some of them are missing. We're going to remove sound and then remove the loose copings, salvage for reinstallation, any copings wherever possible. Where we've got exposed parapet walls, we'll use new terracotta copings, but they won't be custom yet until we get to the phase 2 repairs. We're just going to make it waterproof. And these are 16-inch walls. And so we found a slanted coping that we can use that is off the shelf, so to speak. And we won't have to do a custom run to match those custom copings yet. But in the future, that's anticipated. Match the glaze, match the profiles. So that's an overview of the repairs. Stabilize it, make it safe, and keep the water out of the building as much as possible.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the members on this one? Oh, sorry, because it's a
Public.
workshop. Is there any member of the public
Where's the
that
public?
would like to comment on this workshop? No, okay, sorry. Yes.
Really gonna kill the Halloween house.
I know, sorry.
Did you
Yes.
have another comment?
Not bad.
Okay. I think it's very thoughtful. When you come back to us, I just would like a few things spelled out.
Sure.
You mentioned that the window covers were damaging the brick facade and that you were going to take them out and repair and put in new ones. How are you going to install the new ones to ensure that the damage doesn't occur again?
So the existing damage is caused because the attachments were installed in brick. It's
So put them in the mortar joints. Okay. I like the idea of painted plywood better than the plastic covers you have referred to, so I'd like to see the plywood. You mentioned you're replacing, I'm assuming metal lintels.
Yeah, seal
You
it.
just like put a note, like replacing kind with metal.
Okay.
I don't have much issue with the terracotta off the shelf. Could you just let us know what that looks like?
Sure.
And other than that, I think you've done a really thorough job.
Okay, unless you're ready.
No, this is a question I would direct to the chap from the county. In the photograph that's up on the screen at the moment, the two buildings I think that need the most attention are the barn underneath the label for W17 and the powerhouse under the label for W18. What are you guys doing to those properties?
As of right now, I'm not aware of any current plan to address those.
They seem to be in far worse shape than these buildings. So what is the priority to address the problems that are relatively easy to fix and just let the others continue to deteriorate, or what?
Well, I don't think there's a plan to let things deteriorate, but.
Well, yes, there is, because you're not doing anything to arrest it.
I'll have to get back to you on specifics of why those specifically worked on in this case. Decisions had to be made prior to my engagement on this project. I can certainly circle back, and that is absolutely I could address prior to any future application or at the next step where we would come back for an action.
Okay.
But that would.
Oh, so there's another part of the Lorton prison. They took their powerhouse and they made it into like a community center. So, you know, there are ways in which you can deal with old industrial buildings. And my recollection is that the barn was going to become the stage house for an event venue. And
I have to apologize. I've actually been on the job just a little while, so.
yeah, that was what, 20 years ago? That all that was being proposed.
I appreciate feedback.
Yeah.
Well,
But anyways, it's a very large site and you guys have a very limited budget. And I understand that. But recognize we still see that there are issues to be addressed.
So obviously when it comes for application, drawings, notations, and all that information on there, cut sheets, I think I agree with Hammock having doing that material submission stuff. I think other than those things, which I think is staff, county staff, working with county staff, you guys know what we're going to look for in the submission materials. So it's a little easier than when we have an applicant that's coming, as well. The Laurel Hill folks know that you've seen what we look for in those types of things. My big one is going to be coming with the brick areas, because it says, the line is typically
Match existing.
match existing. The problem is when you look at those pictures,
I know that.
there are several types of what one would call existing.
Yeah.
So it would be kind of helpful to delineate.
Match historic.
Yeah.
Normally match, normally, we would match the historic no matter what. Unless there's a thought
You're
that.
right, there are different campaigns.
Yes, and some of it is also campaigns of people attempting to do a repair that was a bad repair, or maybe a repair that just was whatever was best to be done at that time, not to, but so I think helpful information in the notes and information about what is being matched to.
By the mason.
Yes.
Make sure we get a good mason on site. And then our goal, we provided a great picture there.
Yeah. I think it might have been that picture I was looking for. That was the one that made me think, like,
That's actually very.
who's making that call on that one? Which one are they matching to?
We
Better, do a mortar analysis for this site.
I don't know if there's been a mortar analysis.
Oh, yes, we have done.
Okay.
Analysis.
Okay, that's great.
Because I would agree
You
with
could
your
say
statement of
specs to
going
meet-
to,
Basement mortar to meet our specs as determined by the mortar, we
Yeah.
could put that.
Color,
The tooling.
recommendations for the type of mortar. We've done the analysis.
and to your comment, I would as well say to the original. as,
That would be
you know,
my first call unless, and
That would be the ideal scenario.
done to the building over the years, and because it was a prison years and years and years ago, they were done laxly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for free labor.
with in-house labor.
No, and I agree with Ms. Hammack about the window covers, also because the window covers that are on there now are painted. I think that's quirk of being the art house, that once you put them in there, hopefully you'll let them paint them again, because I think that adds a little flair to the fact that it is a workhouse art center. You know, better that.
I wish they would, yeah.
You know, better than a white one that's slowly chipping, you know, you say, hey, no, workhouse, you can paint these. Because then that means they always look fresh as opposed to, you know, the eventual state they might get into. Because I agree with Mr. Burns's question. It would be helpful, and while it's not, the application is for this, it'd be helpful when you all come back as maybe an update as to where everything is at, because those are two other buildings that I recall with Mr. Burns. There were big plans at one point, and I recognize that big plans, the barn in particular, there were all kinds of big plans for this was a big stage and shows and stuff. And obviously has not materialized, but knowing, you know, why these ones were selected and, you know, what's the plan or maybe perhaps lack of plan for the other ones. Because we've run into a situation with many different buildings like this where eventually we have someone come in to just give us the bad news, like a doctor, about what the prognosis is, and that the building's just going to have to be put down. And I'd rather cut that one off with some of these, knowing, hey, this is where we're headed.
And if you are facing tough choices in terms of prioritization, you know, we are more likely to get a tenant for this building than, you know, that one, if that's, you know, part of the formula, I assume. But I mean, I think showing us where you're making those thoughtful decisions about the trade-offs is really helpful because you put thought into it.
I think we've been forewarned about it too. So it's like, look, you've tried, there's been analysis. I think back to a particular carriage house, which was basically, you know, there were vultures sitting over it and that it was already condemned to die. And that was the first time I got to talk about it knowing the challenges you're facing, you know, maybe the board can't do anything about it, but it helps us be informed as these things start to happen. Any other comments on this one? All right.
Sorry, but quickly, it's sort of like, do you do a 6-month walkthrough? Like, is there a requirement set on how often one of the county people goes through one of these buildings to sort of do a conditions assessment, I guess?
I don't think it's a regular schedule.
Okay,
My knowledge on
okay.
this case, we're projecting done multiple condition assessments over the course of the inception of this project early last year.
Yeah, we started out with a condition assessment for these buildings and then moved on to what needed to be stabilized to sort of mothball the building.
Sure.
And keep further deterioration from happening. And that's our first step is get these settled. So
Highest priority things done and that's what, I mean, having done some conditions assessment work myself, I just, you know, I knew we had to sort things into high, medium and low, but also set up a schedule that said for the things that are medium now that might be high in a year, like try to catch them before they're, you know, water pouring through a roof or whatever. So I realize that's out of the purview of what you're asking us to talk about here today, but you know, that's where the ounce of prevention type thing, I would love to see there be a plan or some system in place for more regular checkups.
And then Mr. Burns has one other question, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned that the buildings are currently unoccupied and will remain unoccupied and all.
for right now.
Yeah, for right now, but they're essentially mothballed. I mean, are you having provisions to keep them adequately ventilated so they don't get moisture trapped inside and
Yeah,
that sort of stuff?
yes, as we've covered.
I would include that as part of your presentation.
Cover the windows, we'll set them up set up so that we can put louvers through things and get ventilation
Yep.
through the space. There's no working MEP systems whatsoever. So
But if you can use passive ventilation,
Yes.
stuff like that, please
Absolutely.
include that in your final presentation.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. No, so I guess my question is, I assume we're going to see you again very soon for application, and what's the timeline once approval for this work to happen?
Yeah, anticipated we'll come back to the May session.
Okay.
Approval. We're looking at going out to advertisement for bids in August
Yeah, I
Spring.
think August, yeah.
of this year, and then timeline we anticipated being done springtime next year. But we'll get more definition.
Time for those.
Is that reasonable based upon the scope of work and fine tune that construction schedule for to be more reasonable?
Nice. Well, hope to
Mr.
see you in
Kalinsky gets
April.
one more Halloween.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
My kids thank you for not.
It'll be great.
okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for being patient, being our last workshop. Really appreciate it. All right, that takes us out of workshop items. We have no presentations. We're going to move on to board and staff items. First on the agenda is review and action on approval of previous month's minutes for February 12, 2026. Are there any revisions to the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to pay the clerk.
I
Ms. Hannah.
move that ARB approve the February 12th, 2026 meeting minutes and pay the clerk, Ryan Johnson.
Motion, is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Mangum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, treasurer's report as of this meeting, as of yesterday, no, as of February 11th, sorry. We have a balance of $32,590.56. Just a reminder that there is money in the ARB's budget to support some training costs. So if members who pursue that, there is a way to compensate you for some training costs. So keep that in mind because that's part of the budget we have does support that, not just paying Ryan's. Well, but critical activity. All right. Yes, Ms. Wayne.
Well, on that subject, I was just gonna say I did register for an APC.
I did too.
Okay, and that's free because
Yes.
you gave us the coupon code.
Mary Catherine, I think, sent it out.
Dollars at work right there.
Right.
It's all voted to be.
Of our NAPC membership code, you can register for it. So
Oh,
if you check
It's-
back in the emails, it should be in there.
okay, I'll
Yeah.
find it.
I think it was a virtual session.
Right, but
That way we have training for this.
exactly.
What's the session?
I hope no work conflicts come.
It is it's a general session on boards.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
I thought it
yes.
would be particularly
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
stakeholders, working with stakeholders.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Well, we did that today.
Yeah, we did. Okay. Administrative, are there any administrative items, Mary Catherine, for us? Okay, this brings us into discussion, updates and reports. So I have a statement I have to make for this one, though, because two items for discussion, updates, reports, Dulles redevelopment I-95 corridor involve section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. I have been informed by my agency that it creates a conflict for me to even chair this discussion. So I am going to recuse myself as chair for this item, but so that we maintain quorum, I will remain in the room. However, I will not participate in the discussion and I will abstain from voting. With that stated, we obviously don't have our chairman here, so we have to appoint a chair pro tempore. Pro tempore? Is that the term?
Bori, yeah.
Or pro tempore. Pro tempore. And Mr. Burns has graciously offered to be that chair, but someone has to make a motion to appoint him to that position. Mr. Kalinsky.
To make a motion to appoint Mr. Burns pro tempore for this discussion of the discussion and update reports.
All right, there's a second. Seconded by Ms. Hammock. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, you abstain? Okay.
And just before discussion begins, I also have to recuse myself from discussion about it and will not have to abstain from voting, but I can sit in the room to maintain quorum unless, are we all needed to?
You need six
You need six.
present members to maintain quorum.
Okay.
You just need to be present. You can still abstain from
I
voting.
might
It's up to your discretion, Ms.
I don't-
Mangum.
yeah.
Would you like-
head out.
Okay. Ms. Mangum is going to leave the room, but we still maintain it.
And this is what I would normally do, but we would,
For context, this is because both me and Ms. Mangum work with the Section 106 review process in our federal jobs.
yes.
So
So there is a chance that through the Section 106 review process for both of those, this could eventually come to our agency.
Okay. Yeah,
And-
I understand.
yes.
Okay.
All right, motion is passed. I am going to pass the gavel to Mr. Burns and he shall lead the discussion. Okay.
Okay.
Please proceed.
So I'm bringing this to you again. These documents have been circulated to the board. The first being the Dulles Airport redevelopment. The question at the last meeting posed to staff was, are there any changes or construction proposed in Fairfax County portion of the Dulles site? And the answer is yes. And this, what they're calling the southern quadrant, which is located, if you can, sorry, I do not have a graphic, but if you're familiar with Dulles and the county border cuts through just south of the buildings that you think of as the airport and terminal, they're calling that the southern quadrant. There are potentially proposed structures there. They have done a site analysis in this environmental assessment of buildings up to 100 feet tall and the impact that would have. And they're saying minimal impact on the Sully Historic District, which is the closest one that you have purview over. However, this is a potential, could be, there's still a lot of time for things to change. So I'm bringing this to you again because you have the option to become, the word is escaping me now, a consulting party. That's the word I'm looking for. In this process, there is a process that staff would take care of as far as notifying the appropriate board of supervisors and so forth. If you choose to do that, you can withdraw at any time if you find you no longer want to participate. But I would suggest that you consider it, given the fact that there could be structures beyond what's shown in this report in terms of height, quantity.
Yeah, we can't jump in later.
I will say that the History Commission has previously on other Section 106 weighed in as consulting party for Dulles Airport projects. And my understanding, I don't know if we had a formal vote on it last week or not, but my expectation is that we would that the commission would participate in this project as well.
In the experience as a board, like, you don't have to sit in on meetings, do we? What, like, to be a consulting party, like, what's the commitment from us?
Okay, we were a consulting party for the Siltstone connector. And they came and made a presentation to us about what they're proposing to do. That one had a direct impact on Reston. But we didn't have to go to their meetings. We mostly got reports and copies of things. We were included in their email distribution. We were invited to meetings. We didn't have to go to those meetings. We were also involved, I think, as a consulting party for the reactor at Belvoir. In that. And then we got involved in another one, and we got the clerk of the board yelling and screaming at us that we had no right to get involved, and that was the demolition of the Fairfax County Courts Archives building at George Mason University. And they said that we had no, the county said that we are, that's the county, is the consulting party, that the ARB could not be. So
This makes sense.
does the county have a stance on this? I mean, if, you know, we've had our hands slapped once before, but we've also participated once before. So I'm not sure where we would seek permission from the Board of Supervisors to become a consulting party. Is that something that the county requires us to request?
Your bylaws require you to notify the Board of Supervisors within so many days of your intent to request consulting party status.
Okay.
It's in your bylaws. And
What
I
we really need to do tonight is initiate that.
that it's a request or a notification. I would have to look at the verbiage. I don't know off the top of my head.
I think if the report is making a conclusion about the effects of a historic district we regulate, we should be a consulting party so that we can concur with their findings or not. So that's my thought.
No, I'm just thinking through the ramifications of you know, of our involvement in this political climate. That's all.
But it doesn't mean we're going to say no to anything. It just means we want to be aware.
You have to clarify, you're not, if you become a consulting party,
You're not voting.
you're not obliged to provide a comment necessarily. You can withdraw your participation at any time. But it lets you get your hat in the ring if there are issues that you want to raise.
Okay.
I mean, I'd
Do that.
rather have my foot in the door and then
Yeah.
decide to step out if
Yeah.
necessary, but
So what do you need from the board tonight for you to take that next step?
I think I would feel most comfortable with a vote that you would like to, staff to, start the process, how do I?
Inform the Board of Supervisors that will be a consulting party.
Yeah, that you would all like to be a consulting party.
And is that something the History Commission has already done?
Yeah, we actually had a lengthy discussion with the county attorney some years ago about whether or not we had standing to participate in Section 106 proceedings.
Okay.
And so we do have to notify the Board of Supervisors,
You too.
I'm seeing nodding heads.
but we don't
So-
have permission. We
Want me to make
You
a,
just notify. I think that's what it is. So I think we just need an agreement from the board in form of a vote that you want to be a consulting board if you're not.
And Willa?
what's the word I have to propose?
I move.
I move, okay, sorry, I was having a brain fart. I move that the board vote to inform the Board of Supervisors that we, the ARB, would like to participate as a,
Consulting.
sorry, I'm like, it must be low blood sugar, as a consulting party for the Dulles redevelopment and I-95 corridor studies.
Well, this is, we're only speaking.
Oh,
Dulles.
this is only for the, excuse
This is only
me,
For Dulles.
this is only for the Dulles redevelopment project.
Mr. Johnson, did you get that?
Yes.
Restate it incorrectly again.
Ms. Amick has moved that the ARB inform the Board of Supervisors that the ARB would like to participate as a consulting party for the Dulles redevelopment
Yeah,
project.
that sounds great.
Is there a second? Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. Motion carries.
Wonderful, thank you. The second item is in the same vein. It's the I-95 bidirectional study, which I shared with you their report on Ignite. And this one is, they did an archaeological survey. They also did an above ground structure survey, if you saw it. There's not very many historic structures probably that qualify for VHR listing. But again, this is one, I don't believe it's in the Section 106 process yet, but it very well probably will be, given that it's a highway. So again, the ARB can decide if you'd like to be a consulting party or not.
Can we wait and see if it goes to Section 106? Won't we be notified again?
I believe, yeah. So the county will be notified. I believe you can join at any time and withdraw your participation at any time. So that's up to you. I mean,
I looked at the structures and in the survey and none of them jumped out to me as concerning, but I don't know. This is my first time I've ever
Oh.
reviewed something like this before.
Don't forget, our charge is archaeological resources.
Yeah, I don't know anything.
And so
Yeah,
at the moment, we are lacking the expertise.
I know.
to Answer that question.
And it is road work. I mean, it's I-95.
Yeah, I looked at, I'm sorry, folks over here.
I'll just say that the History Commission is also, I'm not sure if we got notified by staff about this, but because I was notified as an ARB participant, I did bring it up at our last meeting. And again, we have participated in the Richmond corridor as that Section 106 proceeding. And there were also, there's a number of other highway ones that are in process right now that we would participate in.
This is our interstate Main Street in Fairfax County.
That's true.
And it's a pretty substantial construction project. I looked at that report and I also, we have over the years gone to Springfield Mall and whatever that thing is on the other side of 95. I know the area. There's a lot of buildings that are of the age that might be considered historic simply because of their age. Now, whether or not they have architectural or social history significance, I don't know. But it's cutting right through the middle of them. And there is the one tall building, I've forgotten its name, that I think was identified as a potential. And that was an iconic building at the intersection of the Beltway and 95 and 395. Excuse me. And much like the Sheraton in Reston was on the Dulles Toll Road, it was the one tall building out there, and that's still there. It's been disfigured by all the cell phone antennas on its roof. But it's essentially still there, and it's really still the only tall building there. I imagine that part of this redevelopment, there's also something bigger going on. It's the Franconia Springfield Study Plan Amendment that's coming along. I think
Fairfax or Alexandria?
now in Fairfax County, the plan amendments, and my concern is that they're looking about redevelopment all around where this thing cuts through. And so I think we need to be involved on the ground floor. And so I would suggest that this is another one that we should attempt to be involved in as well.
I will not make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Yes, Cheryl?
Sure. So I move that that staff be requested to inform the Board of Supervisors that the ARB would like to be a consulting party on the I-95 corridor studies.
Is there a second? Mr. Kalinsky. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And are there abstentions?
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
And with that,
Actually, I do have one more item, just a point of information, because you guys were mentioned last night in case your ears were burning.
Oh, the things.
No, it was, you were mentioned in your capacity to lend the Fairfax County Park Authority expertise in how to deal with historical structures. So there was a park board meeting last night. They were discussing that they voted to demolish the Banks House, which is a mid-century structure, private dwelling made by an African-American entrepreneur during the Jim Crow era. And the Park Authority Board was informed by staff that there was a finding that it was historically not significant, and that it lacked historical significance and was not eligible for the Fairfax County Historic Inventory or the National Register. The problem was that neither of those determinations had been made. So our chairman of our inventory committee appeared to clarify for the record that those that we couldn't speak to the National Register, but in terms of the inventory committee, we had not made any such determination. And that we would like to be involved in these decisions to demolish historic structures or old structures, and that that the ARB was also available to participate and consult in these processes.
Is it on Telegraph Road? Is that-
you found it?
There's a website of all about the history of Olander and Margaret Banks with photos of them and their family. And it seems like definitely enough information to make a determination of historic significance.
And who said that they were not eligible?
Staff there was a presentation to the Park Authority Board, which said that, it had been determined that there wasn't any historical significance, that they weren't eligible for the inventory.
Who's making the presentation?
Well, he
I don't know specifically.
into the Fairfax County Park.
Yeah.
He gave his family land to Fairfax County Park, and they tore down his house.
They haven't torn it down.
I mean,
but they're in the process of, they've decided that they're going to. The house was up for consideration under the resident curator program. And the resident curator program didn't want it, I think is what happened. And so there was an attempt perhaps there might have been family members who were thinking about writing a nomination. We never received one, staff never. Yeah.
Is this the property that's off Old Telegraph Road?
Yes,
It's from, so the house dates from the early 60s.
Yeah, okay, that's
yeah,
that's the diagonal cutoff.
yes, yes.
I know exactly where that is.
Yeah, and the house is, it looks like a little ranch in the front, but it's got this
Big.
huge back. It's got
27
27
rooms.
rooms in it or something like that, yeah. He was,
It might not be eligible. I mean, it might not be.
I don't know if it would make the national
Yeah.
register as a single structure.
Exactly. It's a
Randall Estates just made it as a,
local.
it's a district, but I don't know if a single structure would make it on the national register.
Yeah.
But the inventory probably, would have, I mean, we never saw it. We never saw a nomination. So we just wanted to clarify that and suggest that they talk to the boards that are available to them.
And in my humble opinion, that sounds like that was a programmatic decision as opposed to a assessment of its true
Yeah.
significance. It's open land. They're trying to make that into a park, and this is an intrusion in the park. And not any number of agencies, when they get land to become a park, they want to tear down all of the evidence of human habitation so that it becomes more wildernessy. And or-
They have a number of proposed plans, which I'm not familiar with offhand. There might be something on their website, because I know that there were some public meetings. And so they have a couple of ideas about what they want to do after they tear the house down. And I know one of the things that they're planning on doing is providing cultural interpretation, talk about who the banks were and all that, but
that's,
yeah.
I mean, the spirit, from what I can tell, is that this was their home. They bought 10 acres. This is where they raised 9 kids.
Yeah, I know exactly where it is.
Thank you for telling us. That's
So are you asking us?
No, I'm just informing you that we dropped your name.
offered our
At the
services.
meeting the other night and said that, that the commission said, we want to be engaged in these decisions more, that you could, that the park authority should feel free to come to the commission. And we also mentioned the ARB in the same vein, in part because of Mount Gilead, specifically in our committee discussions that had come up. And so that was one reason why the chair mentioned the ARB, because you had made a similar statement, regarding the garage.
Thank you.
Sorry for keeping it later.
Are you turning that back over to me? Okay. For the record, I have taken back over the position of chairing the meeting from Mr. Burns. Thank you, Mr. Burns.
You notice how quickly things went. I was chair. You were chair of the whole meeting.
It's funny because the Fairfax County website has a whole section on the history of the family, including pictures of the home.
I'm gonna, now that I feel like you're talking, because it's not a 106 issue that you guys be talking about. I also wish Ms. Mangan was here too, because I think the archaeology is another question. That's this site. So we were talking about, not about a 106 issue.
Okay.
Ms. Repetti brought up that the History Commission had brought up us about a discussion where the Fairfax County Park Authority is going to demolish a structure at the bank's home. Everyone else here knows where it is. I'm not very familiar with this property.
So it's on Old Telegraph Road.
Oh.
So it's in Franconia.
And say what's the property again?
It's called the Banks House. It's a red, sort of, it looks like a ranch.
So when you're
From the
when you're heading south and you take the old Telegraph Road
Yeah.
cut off,
The cute one toward Knowles.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
right about
The part,
down, there's a big open
That
field,
okay, got it.
10 acres.
Yes,
Has
it's beautiful. Okay.
a red brick,
Sorry.
the red brick house.
Yes.
that-
And they're tearing that
Yeah,
down.
it appears the Banks family, it was given as part of the land. It was given to the
Okay.
county.
Yes,
And now the county is going through the process of demolishing it.
okay,
In this discussion, the county described it as being ineligible, but apparently there's been no
Now,
such.
when I say
determination.
beautiful, I was referring to the aesthetics of that area.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
It's been
Okay, got it.
vacant, it's boarded up. There's a Facebook group, Save the House.
but you weren't here, but I think the other thing that wasn't brought up is there's also an archaeology question there, I would wonder too.
Yeah.
About that site, if that's a property that his family's owned for an extensive amount of time,
Sure.
so.
I hadn't even thought of
Oh my
that.
gosh, the
Shame that
kittens
they
are.
didn't put a,
Because it's so.
put a condition on it that the.
Yes,
state-
I was just about to point that out, that, you know, in fairness to the Park Authority, they, when the house was, the property was sold, they sold it at below market. And they did not make any stipulation about preserving the house when they did that, so.
Oh,
Did they
that
make
was
any
their
stipulations? on
opportunity to
their-
do that.
Were they giving it for parkland or?
There is, I think, a stipulation that it be preserved as open land or something like that.
Okay,
I
because
think-
we may be running afoul of it, the intentions of the owner in there. I was curious just.
There seems to be community, like the Franconia Museum is trying to rally support to save the house. Of course, you know, what do you do with the house? It needs a lot of work. Where's the money come from? It's been vacant, it's outdated.
Well, at the very least, if it goes, it could be documented before it's.
That's true.
No, I agree. It's frustrating. It's kind of being quiet. It's frustrating to hear someone say that they've decided it's not eligible for the county inventory and then they're not actually giving evidence of somebody having done the effort to evaluate it. Even just a preliminary evaluation. So that would be that's my inclination is like, you say that, but what effort was done to determine that?
Right.
Yeah, the resident curator program requires that, that the property be on the inventory.
Mm.
And so they were saying it wasn't eligible for the resident curator program because it wasn't eligible for the inventory.
So we need to request the documentation that says who made this decision.
We have to have it, we'd have to evaluate it for our own inventory.
Well, and that's when you say we, the History Commission has to do it. And the thing I've understood is that is a big ask because someone on the commission has to then do that.
No. No, we take nominations from the public.
Well, yeah, but barring a
Someone
public
might-
member doing
somebody
it, someone else has to do it.
that. Someone, it sounds like there might be enough interest that someone might take that on.
It's,
Is it like amateur?
they're saying a truth, but it's actually a half a truth. They're saying it's not eligible for the resident curator program because it's not on the county inventory. But they're not saying that it was rejected on the county inventory. It was
Right.
just never asked about.
I think they,
Right, and they're taking that the next giant leap to it's insignificant.
yeah.
That's.
So we could make a recommendation for it to be evaluated? What, is there an ask? What is the question? Okay.
What would we do in this situation?
might have
We've
failed.
come across this before.
The county in its plans says that when it's making changes and stuff, that it's supposed to take into consideration heritage resources and potential heritage resources. So I don't think anybody's made any investigation as to whether or not this is a potential heritage resource. The county agreed that the property is significant by accepting it.
He attended Parker.
Well, if the park authority accepted the gift of the land, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean significant for its historic value.
No, it's just free.
We
land.
don't know
Right.
the whole
We don't,
basis.
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
right, or the owners.
So perhaps an action for us, so we're not spinning our wheels here tonight, is to ask staff to inquire about that. And if so, maybe we can get a presentation or information from the relevant park authority folks about this. They would love, I'm sure, to come back to us again because we're so
Or-
charitable and welcoming to them on many other occasions. But Mary Cochran, just thinking for you, I mean, it sounds like we might want to know more about this. So if there's more you can gather for us, that would be helpful.
I mean, if this was renovated, it would be easier to live in than a carriage house. You know, like.
Sorry, I brought up the carriage house.
Ranch, 2-story
Yeah.
porch, it just.
In a lovely setting.
But we don't know a lot, or that obviously you all, the History Commission has obviously intersected with it. It would be helpful to know.
So we haven't really evaluated it either because the information, we were told that this was a possibility. There was a request a little while ago, it came before the Park Authority Board. But it was tabled, and it was tabled in a indefinite sort of way. It wasn't clear when it was going to come back to the board. And then last night we learned that it was coming back to Tuesday night, we learned that it was coming back to the Park Authority Board Wednesday night.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
So they've taken action to vote to remove it.
Yes, they have.
So at this point, it's almost more of a factual request we'd be seeking, because we're kind of already too late on the
So we're,
time to provide this decision.
the commission hasn't taken, usually in circumstances like this, like with Dunloring, we would discuss it as a commission, make a decision to write a letter advising, supporting or whatever. And we haven't done that. We haven't gone through that process here. We've looked what we did do was we inquired with staff whether or not there had been ever been a submission that we somehow missed or overlooked, and we could not find one.
Sure. There is a Fairfax County Park Authority, Orlander and Margaret Banks Neighborhood Master Plan. Okay, so they created a master plan document for this neighborhood in 2011. That was when the house should have been evaluated.
Wish I could say that is not a situation that has happened before.
I mean, they documented the house in this master. Maybe this is what they think is the evaluation where they found it wasn't significant. But it does discuss the house and the history of the site in this master plan document from 2011.
Well, it's now 15 years later. It could have turned 50.
So I think for the sake of our staff, perhaps, Mary Catherine, if there is any information you can share on this to the collected board information to have us just have some context, that would be helpful. Whatever you can gather, that would be great. Just an email, I think, would be at the current point, because at this current moment, there's no action for us to take.
Yes, and I'm not asking for any action. We just wanted to let you know that we had mentioned you and that we were generally trying to enforce a more collaborative.
I feel like we've said that too
This
to the park.
This report says that upon evaluation, its preliminary examination suggests that this structure does not meet the criteria for listing. And it was a preliminary archaeological assessment, moderate potential for the presence of archaeological resources, moderate to high potential for historic archaeological resources. So, yeah,
That's a survey.
that's from 2011. Yeah.
And you get Rachel on the ground.
I do think
There's a more recent survey that was done.
presented this when they made the argument that they needed the vote for the demo. I mean, this is like crucial information.
I think Mary Catherine can share whatever she can share with us to her ability, but beyond that, there's nothing for us to do at this juncture other than continue to keep our eyes open, ears to the ground as to what other county entities might be up to.
Is there
Okay,
any mechanism to search past like agendas for years gone by of ARB? Just to, I mean, could you search key terms like this Banks house or whatever? I guess as a board, how would we know if something ever came before the board before, say in
staff.
2000?
In my memory, this had not come before the ARB.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's how we know John. Okay. Perhaps you may have been on vacation for that one.
Right.
And it's not in a history.
we're at a Docomomo
Right.
conference. You missed out.
That's good.
But if they have an address, staff can access like our own tracking and databases.
Okay,
I'm not sure if there's a way for the public.
okay,
I'd have to look into that.
okay. Just if it was something that was even brought as a courtesy, let's give the benefit of the doubt. They might have asked us our opinion about it when they made that.
Well,
but-
it would be a very interesting question to see how that's changed over, I mean, just the time I've been here and how that data has changed probably since you've been here. Because I mean, I remember there being handwritten notes taken in some of our meetings would be transposed. So that's changed a lot in just the short time I've been here. So it's a good question. Okay. Any other updates or reports that weren't listed on the agenda? Mary Catherine, are we good there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
There.
No correspondence or announcements? Well, I mean, there was one correspondence, the letter Jason did, pen a letter to go out. I think it was shared for everybody, so it's just a reminder that it was shared. Did a great job, so kudos there. Old business, public outreach regarding new submission schedule, and then there's one other one, so.
Oh, yeah.
Start with that one?
The outreach, just last time we talked about the new submission schedule following the adoption of the design guidelines, and I think the board was in agreement 3 weeks prior to the meeting date is the timeline we want to use submissions. Due date, and Jonathan's going to pull up a slide here. I just wanted to share with you what we're envisioning as far as communicating this to the public and get your feedback if you have any. So rollout's going to happen in September with beginning staff reports starting in September.
Can you go full presentation mode?
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of this share bar.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, you were trying to do it, all right.
So with the rollout, so in September, starting with the September meeting, you'll get the materials the Friday before the ARB meeting, as we discussed, giving you almost a week to look at it. You will get a draft agenda. Sorry for the typo there, but the week of the meeting is when you'll get a numbered agenda because we won't order those until the week of the meeting, but you will know what cases are coming. So that's 3 weeks before the submission due date. We're going to do workshops and review for action applications on the same submission schedule. The Lorton MOA area, I don't believe is going to change. They have a 30-day requirement where they have to have 30 days to alert BDHR of their proposals. So we're going to notify the public 30 and 60 days out. So that puts us with sending notices out. What does that put us in? The end of July and then a month before that, so June. And we'll be updating the website even before that, letting people know this is coming soon. And those are the ways we're going to notify the public. So the main thing is going to be a postal mail notification. We're going to send a letter to every property owner, every address in there to capture the renters, and then HOA, COA, civic associations. They'll get an actual envelope from the county of Fairfax. Then 30 days prior, we'll just send a postcard alert, switch it up. Self-delivery, website updates, and of course, info sheets and messaging with the other agencies we work with, like LDS and the Board of Supervisors. So if you have any feedback, any ideas, please share them now or share them later. We have a little bit of time to roll this out.
Feedback to share.
Could I share this with the Civic Association of Holland Hills? So they can kind of get an advance notice?
Oh, sure. I'm pretty sure this is a go. Yeah.
I will do that. Since that's most of our work.
Well, and as much as we can share it if they can, because I have a feeling they, even though they want to get everything in.
Yeah, no, I'd like to get the word out so people
Yeah.
are prepared and not caught by surprise if they have big projects in the pipeline.
And I guess my only question, one, super excited to see this happen. Is there gonna be like the info sheet for the supervisor's office? I'm hoping we're getting to the right staff at some of those supervisors' offices.
Right.
And I'm thinking of the supervisors who have, like, I'm particularly right now, since we had Lake Ann, I'm thinking, of Walter Alfred's office and just, if you're gonna hear people, go, oh, well, this changed. And, the more we can, as long as it's going widely enough so that folks are like, no, this was announced well in advance. We've communicated this. And the same would obviously be for Holland Hills. Making sure folks are aware that, hey, your district gets a lot of applications. So we want you to be aware that we're changing something. And I don't know if that's a phone call to the talent person.
To Christine.
Yeah. Well, no, we'll send her a fruit basket.
Exactly, you should, yes.
We can't.
Never send her a fruit basket. That's an epic
can't do that.
violation of her. But no, I can't wait. Any other, what's your thoughts, story have on this one? No? All right, Soapstone Corridor.
Yep, this is just a reminder, you all received the Soapstone Corridor draft report, history report, was one of the mitigating outcomes of that study. And Comments are due tomorrow if you've had any. I hadn't received any. So I just wanted to remind you, if you have them, I need them
Okay.
before tomorrow.
All right. No other old business, new business or other business. I have, it's just short update. Samantha brought to my attention that there was a proposal. This touches on other county entities, Fairfax County Public Schools. We struggled with our communication relationship with them. They have now have a big initiative for putting solar built on top of a lot of different schools or in proximity to schools. And one of them was proposing them at Terracet Elementary, which previously had a solar field atop it when it was originally constructed. They're not obviously building the same scale that I believe Saudi Arabia provided, but it was an interesting example of, we've asked these boards to think about when they might, or these entities, when they want to talk to us. And sometimes it's a worrisome thing, because in this situation, Samantha learned that they were just going to put it all across the green roof that the school uses. And while it's not a historic building at this current point, it was alarming. And then when I did some inquiries to both my supervisor as well as to the school itself didn't know about it.
Oh,
And
no.
then found out, and then thankfully was able to reach out and communicate with the contractor or consultant working to talk about, yes, we do use the roof of this school for activities. So I don't know what, other than to say, we've pointed out to Fairfax County Public Schools that they have buildings that have been or could be historic. And, you know, we ran into the Dunloring School situation, which I think was a very obvious one. We have not had any forward momentum with them since that discussion. When we offered to be collaborative, they have not followed up on that.
So Terracet is not on the county inventory, is that right?
It's not.
It's not, it's my understanding.
So that is one of the things that we're looking at on the inventory committee, is trying to get, review what buildings in the school system should be on our inventory. And yes, these are the ones that we wind up having to try to write ourselves, which is cumbersome.
You need a grad student. Really,
I mean-
like they need to get
Sure.
a name on a national, and if they're, anyway, I'm just.
I'll be the first to say though, too, though, I don't know if Terracet would be eligible anymore.
Mhm.
The grid on top of it was a very prominent feature that no longer exists. And so I worry that its integrity has been compromised.
If we just had a list of like all the schools built before 1965, I think, and a map, that would
That's
just be
what
really helpful.
when we were talking about Dunloring, Jason and I,
Yeah.
when we met with Fairfax County Public Schools, discussed, you know, we might be helpful to have a conversation about what of these schools are potentially coming up, you know, or maybe having issues, or maybe facing new projects when the county seeks bond and gets money to do, you know, big projects on them. And it's equally ironic because we've given exceptional design awards to some of the projects they've done on schools that are getting close to that time period, I would say too. So it's a little, I only bring it up to say, we were talking about Fairfax County Park Authority. It's an evolving relationship with Fairfax County Public Schools too.
Yes.
Well, I think it's ask forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
It seems to be the MO.
That same question could be posed for all county buildings,
Oh, yeah.
libraries, firehouses.
And just communicating like a minimum threshold of like, no, we don't need to see every repair project, but when something rises to the level of modifying an exterior feature, or, you know.
These are not hard questions to answer, because the county GIS system has dates of construction associated with every plot,
Right.
with every parcel. And you can just query it. And everything pops up.
Maybe we task the GIS department. Well, on my walk when I was outside, I got to.
The other side of it is I think there's a misconception of the fact that our board only deals with HODs, and that we don't have a capacity to advise on other matters related to the historical, cultural, and archaeological heritage of the county. So it's a branding thing too.
Yeah.
You know, that I think we frequently end up having to inform these entities, oh no, we can be a consulting party. we could be a party that's just interested because that school is historic. And yeah, it's not an HOD, but we would really like you to find a different way to rebuild it. And I'm still hoping we find out what happens with Dunlorry because I
Yeah.
was surprised that they were willing to do what we were suggesting with the facade effort. And I would love to see that one day because I think that'd be a big example of, well, yes, we lost the building, but at least we did something better than a
Then a marker.
shoebox window that was eventually going to be replaced with, I'm sure, wonderful art by the kids in that school, but it would eventually go away. Instead, we proposed something more permanent. So I thought that was a win in some ways. So.
Mhm.
All right, that was it. That was my new business. John, do you have any new business?
Move to adjourn.
Anyone else? No? All right, the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
You don't need a second.
Second by, all those in favor?
Aye.
There's no second.
Only had 3 items on the agenda.